that's not the right one. Thought we would forego. Actually, I'm gonna go to the book club scene. I don't know why I keep doing this. Thought we would forego the intro tonight since it is book club, so we're not doing the game and stream. But I hope you all are ready and excited for some book club fun. I really liked this book, and I'm super excited to talk about it. So if there's anyone in chat who would like to chat about their opinions, you are welcome to go ahead and hop in. We are going to have a Lottie Lattes on stream in just a moment, but I wanted to go ahead and open stuff up super quick. So y'all should know Lottie. She was on stream for the Poppy War, an avid reader. She and I know each other from playing World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy, primarily. She is a delight. So, let me get her pulled in. What's happening? Okay, let me pull in. Hold on. Let me text her that I'm gonna pull her in. Or else she's gonna get yeeted. And be very confuzzled. But yeah. I hope everyone has had a better week than me, truthfully. No. This week has just been really long, and like I've been on the phone a lot with like insurance and junk, so I'm pretty excited to like be going into the weekend. I'm definitely gonna be playing some freaking Pokemon Scarlet after stream. I'm very excited. I have to pick a starter still, because I am what one might call indecisive. So, that's fun. But anyway, let me get a Lottie Lattes pulled in. Why, hello.
Hello, you just dragged me away from Thomas.
I know, but I tried to text you, but you didn't see it. I didn't want to wait too much longer.
It's okay.
Sorry, Lee.
Let me message him and tell him.
Oh.
As he runs away.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Turn you up.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very glad it's Friday.
I'm also very glad it's Friday. Man, fuck this week.
Oh my god, I know.
This week has been bullshit.
Everyone I've talked to this week has been like, yo, this week sucks. Like, yes. Correct.
This week, overall, has just been a absolute clusterfuck of bullshit.
Oh my god, right?
Mm-hmm.
Today's been okay so far, though. So we're... Fingers crossed that I haven't ruined it by saying that out loud.
My day has been much wine, so it's been good since much wine.
There we go.
Which is better than no wine, so we'll call it a win.
It's true. I do not have an alcoholic drink this evening.
It's okay, I'll drink for the both of us.
True. Yo, Leaf, we do all just need a reset on this week. You're very correct. Oh my god.
I'm sorry Alyssa dragged me away, Leaf.
I tried to warn you guys.
You did. We were just talking and I didn't look at my phone.
I could have an alcohol. We do have entire alcohols, but then I have to get up and go make it. And we just started
for you.
That's true. Okay. Would you... I gave you a tiny bit of an intro. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more formally and talk about, like, your stream a little bit and stuff?
I haven't been streaming, so I don't have a ton to talk about.
Fine.
Hello, I am a Lottie, and sometimes I stream MMOs, and I also read books, and complain very loudly, and drink a lot of wine.
There was one night I was on my way to a wedding, and I'm in the backseat of a car, and you and I are just texting each other paragraphs.
I know, it was great. I remember that conversation. It was glorious.
It was, but I look back on that and chuckle so much.
I was very inebriated when we had that conversation.
That somehow makes it so much better.
They were fully punctuated paragraphs.
Oh no,
On top
they
of it
were.
all.
They were fully coherent, but I do love that. Speaking of things I love, this book is awesome.
I will fully disclose that I did not finish rereading it before book club.
That's
However, having already read it and with my particular history, I
said
figured
you'd
that was
read it
probably
before,
fine.
though.
I have read it before, and I am also Norse pagan, so I feel as though I have a level of conversational capability regarding this book.
That's part of the reason, like, beyond just the fact that I like having you for book club, like, specifically this book, I was like, no, this one I need.
You need the Lotties.
I do.
It's okay. I am here.
You are here.
I am also in true Lottie fashion drinking.
That's
so cheers.
Completely fine.
Zach, make her a drink.
I have no idea if he's got volume on for the stream. You're being yelled at. You're being yelled at in the stream.
I was not yelling. I was suggesting loudly.
No, but he was not. He did not hear.
Oh. That makes it so much funnier. You are being yelled at to make her a drink.
Okay, let me pull up. Oh, this is a long synopsis, but I'll read it anyway.
You can be butt sitting down after you make her a drink.
Alright, let me... I have the Amazon synopsis for this book, so I guess we'll start there.
Okay.
So it says, nothing is trickier than the truth. All Loki, the trickster god of Asgard, wants is a peaceful life where he's free to stir up a bit of harmless mischief. But when he's struck by a painful vision of blood, ash, and death, he knows his fun has run out. Refusing to have his life obliterated by some stuffy prophecy, Loki feels he must save Asgard, except the gods stand in his way. They don't trust the god of lies, which means his only hope is to return to Odin, the man he wished to forget thanks to their complicated history. When Loki meets a mortal woman, his plans hit a snag. Sigyn is delightfully stubborn and quick with a blade. She also inexplicably possesses a divine element found only in a god. As Loki falls deeply in love with her, he never expects their bond to fulfill the prophecy threatening all their lives. I have thoughts about that sentence, but we'll get there. Forced between honoring his oath with Odin or protecting the woman he loves, Loki will discover that the only thing crueler than truth are the lies behind it all, and the truth changes everything.
I have thoughts about this whole book, but I will let you go first.
Yeah, that one sentence, I'm like, I don't agree, but okay. But it's fine.
Like, I love this book on so many levels. It's such a good book.
It has somehow it has somehow made me like more obsessed with Loki, and I'm like, fuck.
Loki is arguably one of my favorite characters from the Norse pantheon on so many different levels, and we will get there. But
oh my god, so much.
But
I read a synopsis in chat happened. Go ahead.
There's a lot of this book that it does really well, and there's a lot of this book that it does not.
That's kind of what I expect from a that's not unexpected, I guess, is what I'm getting at. Like,
yeah, and I mean it's for lack of a better way of putting it, it's a Loki fan fiction, and if you look at it that way, it works really well.
I was operating totally under the assumption that this is effectively fan fiction about like Norse pantheon Loki.
Yeah, and it worked well for that, but if you look at it from my perspective, it's a little jarring, but it is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, this was part of the reason I wanted to talk about that on stream, is because like I went in assuming that not all of it would be accurate and that some of it would be different.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, like that it's not much of a novel if you just quote the original stories.
The entire way through.
Yeah, exactly. Being bullied in chat. Leaf, it's fine.
I see.
Leaf, it's fine.
It's
Also, what I will
it absolutely should be deepened. Thank you.
Yes. This opening scene was so jarring, by the way.
The sudden switch from like 1600s-ish Switzerland to
well, because we start in the church.
Yeah.
That's fucking in like vaguely quote unquote modern day.
So
because we start with Loki being freed and then we go back.
Yeah, in theory, it's supposed to take place in 1600s era Switzerland.
Okay, cool. I did not know that, so it's good to know. Basically, we open in a church, and there's a guy, I think. I don't think we get his name.
We don't get his name, but the whole book is a story to him.
Right, so Loki has basically, like, appeared in this church, very naked because Loki. Because of reasons that make sense later, but also because Loki. So the guy, like, calls the police, but they don't really, like, show up. He gets in some clothes, and he's, like, trying to, like, make sense of this man in front of him. And, like, Loki is saying things that only make sense if you understand who he is. I don't remember exactly, like, everything he says in that moment, because it gets so, like, dwarfed by the story he tells him. But there's this moment where he's like, why isn't this, like, candle out in the church? And the guy's like, we haven't done that in, like, 500 years or something like that. At which point Loki kind of breaks a little bit. He's like, I've been trapped for 500 years, and he's just anguished. But honestly, the main reason for me to, like, sit on this sequence that I think is really neat, you get these moments where Loki, like, quote-unquote flickers, where, like, he looks fine, he's very, like, the book makes a point to note that he's, like, very attractive and is, like, very cunning and blah, 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 but then he gets these flickers where he looks, like, extremely injured, and of course you're like, what does that mean? Because you don't know yet.
I did not do the what does that mean thing when I read this, because Loki historically has always been the master of magic, which in Norse society was a predominantly feminine thing.
Yes.
So it was supposed to be a way to look at Loki and emasculate him. And make him the bad guy.
Yeah. I figured that the flickering was a magic thing, but I was kind of, like, withholding any guesses because I'm so early in the book, right?
Yeah. I mean, so in the Norse pantheon, as an overarching rule, the magic weavers, which they call Seither, is...
Yeah, they tend to be women, like Frigg.
Women. Freya is another one.
Yep.
And everybody else is, like, your traditional, stereotypical sword and board warrior. I'm a berserker rage and run at things and smack shit.
Don't get me wrong, you've got, like, Mjolnir sprinkled in there, and...
Well, Mjolnir is the same thing. Thor's just like, I'm gonna get mad and bash people's heads in with Mjolnir, which you see in the book.
So I guess more what I was saying is, like, there's a difference between, like, Thor's lightning as an element and, like, Loki doing magic.
Yeah, so Thor being the god of thunder means that he has dominion over lightning.
Yep.
But Loki is a trickster god, very similar to the idea of the trickster gods from the Native American culture, and a number of others as well.
Well, I believe his element is quote-unquote chaos, which gives him control over fire, yes?
Yeah, it does. In the book. It doesn't in
I'm referring specifically to the book for the time being.
Yep, that's fair.
For the sake of trying to
everybody else
tell plot, yeah. Once we go through the plot, I do really want to, like, and talk about the book some. I do want to dig into, like, more of the, like, what did this book get, like, quote unquote right on wrong?
Yeah.
Because I poked around a little bit because you and I talked about it a couple days ago, but I didn't want to, like, really dig into it because I knew we were doing this.
Yes, and I have so many answers for you because I know you have questions.
Of course.
But it's cool to see from even the opening of the book from my perspective and talking about him flickering in and out. So one of the things that Loki is the master of is illusion.
Yes.
And that holds true across the Norse mythology as well as the book itself.
I mean, we even get that in, like, the MCU, so that's...
Yeah. He is a master of illusion. He is a master of deception, and that includes illusion.
Yep.
And I will now stop talking about this.
No, you're fine. The only other thing I was gonna say is I like the kind of implication that, like, just because he's, like, the master of, like, illusion and the trickster or whatever does not, like, inherently mean evil either, which is... I like that kind of gray.
In the pantheon itself, he's generally seen as the catalyst for bad, but that doesn't make him evil.
But that's what I mean, though. It's like, not that bad shit doesn't happen because of Loki, but, like, Loki himself is not always, like, he's not portrayed as, like, evil necessarily.
No, I agree with that.
But anyhow, before we derail too far, there's this moment, Loki is, like, in anguish, we get this flickering, and this guy's like, bro, who the fuck are you? What happened? Basically, he's like, what is going on right now? Loki, also, hello, Aya. Loki basically just agrees to tell the story, more or less. Despite being full of rage, which I am a little surprised he slowed down enough to do that, but it's to our benefit, so it's fine. So that's kind of the whole first, like, chapter, and then we switch into Loki's point of view for, like, him telling the story of what happened to him.
And it starts at the very beginning, too. Like, one of the first stories of Loki.
Yep. So, one of the stories, just to, like, paraphrase super quickly, of Loki in both, like, Norse pantheon things and in this book is the story where Thor is dressed up as Freya and quote-unquote goes to marry, I forget his name, a person, in order to regain Mjolnir because he has taken it from them. And Loki, like, assists with this and goes along as, like, a handmaiden via an illusion. So for those who know that story, there's, like, a TLDR. I'll go through a couple of like, bullets, and it just... I do like this one bullet point where I just said Thor and Tyr are kind of assholes.
Thor and Tyr are kind of assholes.
Because they are! But, like, this
Sorry,
is...
Tyr.
This is the this is the first indicator that we get in the story that, like, Loki is generally really unliked in Asgard. Because, like, Thor is really pissed about having to do this, and Tyr's, like, both making fun of Thor and, like, threatening Loki if this goes wrong in, like, the same breath. And Loki's just like, God damn. Okay. Sure. So...
relevant context there, I need to interrupt you for.
Yeah, go.
And I'm sorry.
No, don't.
So, Tyr in the pantheon is known for justice and truth. So for him to sit here and just be like, we're actively deceiving people. Granted, Jotuns, but people.
Yeah.
Him to be involved in that at all is a stretch, so he has to be, like, mad. And so, because...
it's not, like, crazy for him to be, like, unhappy about this plan.
Yeah, but Tyr historically has tended to take out his I'm mad on the people that are making him do the thing.
AKA Loki in this scenario.
AKA Loki and Thor in the scenario. So he makes fun of Thor because they're warrior brothers.
Yeah.
So,
and then he's just fucking mean to Loki.
Yeah, and he's mean to Loki because Loki is seen as less than in the Norse pantheon. And now I am done.
The short version of that story is they go to like the party, the feast, whatever. Thor eats a lot of food and Loki almost gives it away to the point where like Loki has to like lie to cover his ass. They do get Mjolnir back. It breaks out into a fight.
Oh no, it doesn't break out into a fight.
Well,
Thor's like, oh, I get my hammer back? Cool, let's cave in your leader's head.
Yeah. Look, yeah. But there is this moment, and I don't think this is in like the original Norse story, but where Loki creates a double of himself, and he's still in his like handmaiden illusion. And he pulls aside his cousin, who is at this fight, and is like, hey, if you want to make it out of here alive, grab who you can and leave. So you kind of have this moment where it's like, yes, this was like Loki's plan, kind of. The fight was maybe not part of his plans so much. But then he, like, goes out of his way to, like, help his cousin get to safety, which, like, while I do think is an additive to the original story, because I did go read that very briefly, or a synopsis of that, I like it for establishing who his character is in a very, like, succinct way.
It does a really good job with that. It is an additive to the original legend.
I thought so.
But it establishes that Loki is not always the bad guy, and he's not. Even in the original text, he's not the bad guy, he's just different.
Like, does he cause problems? Yes. But
everybody causes problems in Norse myth at some point.
But it's not like he's the only one by a long shot.
Oh no. Definitely not.
All I'm gonna say is I have some thoughts about Odin about that, and we're just gonna put a pin in that for the time being.
We'll get there.
That man causes so many of his own fucking problems.
To be fair, the reason Odin is missing an eye is because he decided to trade it for knowledge, so think of that what you will.
Yeah.
And that's the original myth.
Yep, and that does carry over into the book.
It does.
But yeah, the only thing, so from here we get kind of this interaction with Odin, where you find out pretty quickly that like Loki and Odin used to be like romantically involved with each other.
So worth noting that Loki is gender fluid and pan.
Yes, correct.
Even in the myths.
Yeah,
he is gender fluid and pan.
Loki said, what if I had no established labels at any moment?
So
win with that.
I will get on my soapbox about the Norse stuff later, but remind me to talk about this specific thing later.
Yeah.
I have a soapbox.
Well, that's just as a quick like MCU thing, that's part of the reason it was like cool and fun for them to establish Loki as at least bi, if not pan, in like the TV show that came out. Was that earlier this year or last year? Whenever that show came out. Because it was like, we've always known because of the reference material. They just said it.
He is like even in a time period where we're talking like early hundreds AD.
And like he's also very not opposed to like multiple partners.
Yeah, he has historically, and we're talking the original reference material, been polyamorous, pansexual, and gender fluid.
Yeah.
To the point where he has fathered and mothered separate creations in the Norse pantheon.
Yeah.
And I will touch on that later.
Well, so we'll talk about the horse later.
We'll talk about Sleipnir later.
Uh-huh.
The spider horse.
Spider horse. But anyway. So we get this like interaction between him and Odin where it's like, okay, we used to date or be romantically involved or whatever you want to call it, and like clearly it didn't go well. Like, you don't You don't know why they're not currently involved, but they're, like, very clearly not currently involved.
Frigg.
I mean, yes, but, like, the story does not explicitly say anything outside the fact that, like, Odin is married to Frigg.
Yeah.
There is this thing where, like, there's several implications that they are both still, like, to some degree into the other, which makes the dynamic both, like, more interesting. It makes you want to slap the shit out of Odin later, but that's fine.
To be fair,
I want to hit Odin for most of this book, though, so.
Yeah. The book makes Odin look arguably a lot worse than he does in the myths.
Oh,
but
I'm assuming that. Like, when I read this, like, all of the references were cool, and this is, like, a fun jumping off point to go into Norse pantheon tales and such. But, like, I fully understand that these are caricatures of the stories.
They didn't do a bad job.
Well, but, like, I'm not taking everything literally. Like, Odin's a full asshole in this story, but
it's fine.
But he invites Loki to go down to Midgard for, like, a 2 or 3 day festival in Switzerland.
Midgard being Earth.
Yes, thank you. And it's I don't remember exactly what, like, the festival is for, but it's a party, basically. Like, do you want to come to Earth and party with me? And at first Loki's like, no, but he does agree as a distraction, because something that has been happening to him is he, gets, like, headaches and stabs of pain because there is some like heightened sense thing that he has as a god, basically, where, like, something is coming to Asgard, and, like, he doesn't know what it is, but it, like, is pain, like, it's giving him headaches effectively. So he's like, all right, look, I need a distraction. People in Asgard are pissing me off. Fuck it, let's go. Which, like, mood, frankly.
Yeah, so much mood.
There is this little bit where he's, like, really suspicious because I think it's around now we get the implication that, like, people know something that he does not, but they, like, refuse to tell him. So, like, the seeds of, like, distrust are sown so quickly, which makes it so interesting, but also makes me a little sad for him.
True.
And then we meet Sigyn.
Ah, Sigyn.
One of the best characters in this goddamn book.
And also one of the worst.
Yeah, but I love her.
I don't blame you. She's awesome. I also want to beat her upside the head repeatedly.
Occasionally, yes, but also most of this cast.
Yeah.
There's one specific moment where I was like, Loki, you fucking moron.
To be fair, a decent portion of the original source material is Loki, you fucking moron.
Yeah, which I do love in a very strange way. So we very briefly meet Sigyn. And Loki, like, immediately picks up on, like, she is different. And not in, like, a stupid cliche, like, rom-com, like, oh, she's different. In that, like, we were talking about elements earlier, right? So how, like, Loki's is chaos. I believe Odin's is ambition.
Sounds right.
Where they are a person that just embodies an element of something. And that is part of what is how they are able to be turned into the gods and goddesses that we see in the book. This woman, Sigyn, holds the element of, like, loyalty or fidelity. They kind of use it a little interchangeably. So she immediately catches his eye just because of that. And then on top of that, he's, like, physically attracted to her, which, you know, helps.
It certainly doesn't hurt.
This is not that scene. This is the first scene where she, like, one of the first things, like, he kind of sees her do is there are these guys that are looking for her brother, right? And, like, her brother has, like, stiffed them, he was supposed, like, they had invested in a business thing of his, and he had, like, fucked it up, basically. So they're trying to, like, find her brother, and she won't tell them where he is. I'm also not confident she knows where he is. Really?
6 of one, half dozen.
Either way, she's not gonna tell them. And I do like this kind of touch of, like, whenever she's being particularly, like, loyal to someone, her element, like, Loki can see her element kind of light up, which is cool. I just like the visual of it. But, like, so there's this interaction, and Loki's like, ooh, who is this lady? It's like, sir.
She's awfully pretty, and she does stuff, and I like it.
Pretty much. Pretty much. They talk briefly, I'm aware, I believe.
Yeah, it sounds right.
And of course, like, we do have the slightly cliche interaction of, like, she kind of doesn't give a fuck about him, and that is very intriguing to him.
Because, of course, he's a god, right? So he's used to everybody worshiping him.
Right, and, like, let's be really clear. Loki in this story is, like, canonically extremely attractive. Like, Loki goes out of his way to say, like, people tend to be into him. The guy at the beginning of the book in the church is, like, very much attracted to him. Like, this book makes it super blatantly clear that, like, he is generally considered attractive, and he knows that.
He's pretty.
Which, like, based on the book description, probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, this is the part where Loki gets stabbed, isn't it?
Yes.
He basically has to step into the conflict because it's like 4v1. It's like 4 grown-ass men versus Sigyn. So she, you know, for all of her bravado, can only do so much when she's that outmatched. So Loki steps in. 2 of them die and 2 of them get away, I believe.
Sounds right.
Loki gets fucking stabbed, but he's fine because he's Loki.
So, sounds right.
Yeah. He does get led, so Sigyn sees that he has been stabbed and is like, fuck, you need medical attention. So she takes him back to her house, and, like, they're kind of talking. She's, like, treating his wound, like, as it's healing itself, and, like, there's this moment where she's like, huh, that's a lot of blood for, like, not much of a cut. And Loki has to be like, I bleed a lot sometimes, or something. Like, he has to make up some shit. And she just kind of accepts it.
Which, like, so much,
yeah. Yeah. I thought it was kind of funny, but
it was funny.
It was delightful.
It just also made me facepalm.
Yeah. Cause, like, the book makes a point of being like, hey, she's really smart.
And then she does something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's pretty.
But she is pretty. She is smart in other ways.
Just not that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, am I out of sequence with my notes? I don't think so. Okay, so there's a bit of time between their first and second meeting where he's, like, with Odin again. And I forget exactly the context of the conversation, but at one point they're talking about Odin was asking about, like, the woman that he met. So there's the kind of, they talk about that for a small bit. I'm TLDRing a tiny bit because this sequence is quite short. But Loki lets slip that her name is Sigyn, and Odin is like, ooh, I don't think you should be around her. And Loki's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, Loki's like, what? Which I don't blame him for in that moment, because it feels very, like, paranoid from Odin, right?
Yeah.
If nothing else, because, like, it's abundantly fucking clear that, like, Odin knows something that Loki does not, but also will not tell him. And
which
Loki...
is, like, firmly not cool.
Yeah, and, like, Loki correctly assumes that they're related somehow. But, like, what was the... Loki basically says, oh yeah, Loki says, quote, "I am not in the habit of doing what is best for me." Which,
like, fair, but also, like, dude, we're not talking about, like, normal shit, we're talking about incest here.
Yeah, but he doesn't know that.
Also mood.
Yeah, also definitely mood, for sure. So he goes back down to see Sigurd again, basically. There is this moment where I kind of love, it's like, oh, Odin knows I'm here. Good.
Yep.
Wait, no, I skipped. Wait. Am I dumb?
You're not dumb.
I'm getting the, like, bullying sequences for Sigurd mixed up, because there's the first sequence... No, when they meet is when she has dropped the letters for the printing press.
Yes.
I fucked up the order. So when they first meet, she has, like, this basket. She is being harassed by the guys, which is why I, like, got it mixed up in my brain. But they don't attack her, they do leave. And, like, Loki is nearby and helps her, like, pick up the pieces to the printing press. So they have this brief introduction. He introduces himself as Lucas. And then the second one, he explicitly goes to Midgard to find Sigurd again. And it's, like, already very clear that he's, like, basically in love with her.
Just a wee bit.
Yeah, and he, like, definitely finds her bathing in the river and enjoys it.
And talks about it.
Uh-huh. But as she's kind of getting out of the river, that's when the guys show up and actually attack her, and that's when Loki has to step in, and he gets stabbed, and then they go to her house.
Yes, we were slightly out of order, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I really should look up a plot point thing for books, but not every book we read has that available online, unfortunately.
No, which is frustrating.
Yeah, so, like, anything Stephen King we read will probably have that, but I'm not sure this one would have that, to be honest. But anyway,
so.
This is when we learn about her brother, who's named Simon, and how he tends to, like, start businesses and, like, not be able to follow through on them in one way or another. My immediate thought is that her brother's an idiot.
Yep.
And Sigyn gives him more grace than he deserves.
Also, yep.
So then they're talking, everything is kind of fine. And then I think her handmaiden or something, I can't remember the character's name. The younger woman who helps Sigyn, like, around the house, basically.
I have no idea, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. She's, I mean, at the risk of sounding whatever, she's a minor character, and, like, I know her name when I read it in the book, but I, like, don't retain it outside of that. Her, I think maybe another guy run in, and they're like, fuck, the printing shop is on fire, and Sigyn's like, I'm sorry? What?
What?
So, of course, they're sprinting to the print shop, where it is indeed super duper on fire. So she's panicked and, like, She runs in, people have buckets, they're like trying to put it out. It's like very clear that this building is about to come down, right? So then Loki gets her out of the building because he is already in this place of like, I need like bad things to not happen to her. I need her to be safe. Loki is very, very in love with her very quickly. So thankfully he's able to like remove her from the shop, and keep in mind, like, she does not know who he is. Like, she thinks he's just Lucas. She thinks he's just some like foreign guy who is just in town for like the festival and stuff. And then, why are you memeing in my chat? I see you. But do you want to talk about what Loki does to put out the fire?
No, because I want to hear your take on it.
Fair. So my understanding of it is, because Loki is chaos, fire is his element. So Loki like controls fire effectively. So when he is able to clear everyone out of the shop, he effectively takes all of the fire into himself. Which, like, is just fucking wild. To the point where, like, his eyes are, like, kind of ablaze in a way. To where, like, when the fire is put out and people start coming in, and, like, Sigyn comes in, he, like, has to not look at her until he's able to, like, get it kind of completely under wraps, because, like, his eyes would betray that he has done something, like, not mortal, we'll say.
Yeah, not mortal is a really good descriptor for it.
Yeah. What I do think is interesting is, I like this moment a lot. It's a very, like, cool sequence, and I wish I'd bookmarked it. I would, like, read it verbatim, but I can't, unfortunately. What I think is interesting is, like, the fact that he is able to just wrestle control of it, because my initial thought was he was going to have to, like, release it somewhere. You know, take so much in, release some level of it, and, like, then, like, kind of have more control. So it's very much a display of power that he is able to just kind of, like, wrestle it until it's under control, and then he, like, appears normal again.
Yeah.
So, it would betray how hot he thinks she is. But no, it's a very cool sequence. I do love
the book for you.
What?
I'm trying to find it in the book for you.
Oh, okay. There's a moment in this whole sequence of, like, him going to see Sigyn again and, like, going to her house and the shop being on fire, where he sees one of Odin's ravens, and then he just kind of goes, oh, he knows I'm here. Good. Fuck him. Which is just so on brand. So on brand.
On brand.
I do kind of like this moment a little bit, where, like, Loki very much puts on a persona to, like, the public and those around him, that he doesn't have, like, soft feelings, or, like, that he doesn't, like, super care, like, have a ton of, like, you know, the idea of caring for other people is something of a thing that he tends to, like, not advertise. So I like this moment where it's like, fuck that, this woman is in danger, and she's fucked if this shop gets ruined, so I'm gonna fix it.
It does not get enough credit a lot of the time.
Yeah. And, like, obviously, Sigyn comes in, she goes, what did you do? And Loki's just like, I put out the fire. And again, she just accepts it.
He's wonderfully smart and wonderfully naive all at the same time.
I think in that moment, I do give her a pass, because she's just so relieved that the building is still standing.
Which, fair.
Like, her not catching on that cut was deeper before is kind of like, Sigyn, honey. But this moment, I'm kind of like, you're just glad that you have something to rebuild that isn't ash.
Again, tracks.
Yeah, so I give her a little bit of a pass for this one, even though I will poke fun at her just accepting it for whatever reason. But I do, and that kind of like goes into the next thing of like, he kind of has this moment where he's like, I'm gonna stay and help Sigyn because it's gonna piss off Odin. And I'm like, you're staying to help Sigyn because you're in love with her, but okay, hun. Sure.
Sleep at night.
Right. Like, I do, not to say that I think none of it is to spite Odin, because it definitely is. But I think...
I found the fire spot if you want it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think, like, easily 75% of it is not spite, and in fact, just genuinely wanting to help Sigyn, especially when it, like, becomes clear that the fire was set by one of the men that attacked her. He's like, no, I need to, like, stay and protect her and, like, help her rebuild this, because she's gonna try to do all this by herself, and it's gonna be bad. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, go ahead and read the fire sequence.
Which part do you want me to start from?
I would say just do the part where he is, like, doing his fire magic stuff.
Alright. The seared floorboards creaked beneath my boots. I hadn't much time. The fire squeezed my legs and wrapped around my torso, squirming through my hair that fluttered the same as the inferno I now sought to extinguish. My element grew hungry. I took in a deep breath, inhaling the flames into myself, into my lungs and my belly. Heat, invigorating heat, filled me, coursed through my veins and sinew. I sucked the sputtering light in through my nostrils, in through my mouth, feasting on the fire, consuming the flames faster than they could consume the wooden parchment. The smoke started to clear. The fire quivered now, trembled as I devoured it down to its last embers. My skin sizzled, and sparks snapped within my hair, swirling around my face, chest, and feet. My chaos, so bloated on pure energy, lit my eyes aflame, and I could feel my pupils burning with the fire now inside me. It was done, and I was sated. Pale light streamed in through the broken glass of the leaded windows, revealing the charred remnants of the room. Smoke and burnt wood clung to the air. Cheers swelled in my ears from outside. A door creaked open and steps rattled across the burnt floorboards and singed paper. Lucas! Sigyn ran towards me. I closed my eyes shut. I couldn't have her see my chaos I knew still burnt within my gaze. She wrapped her arms around me and pulled me into an embrace. I hope she didn't notice the steam rising from my skin or feel the heat still lingering in my bones. You stupid, stupid man. I thought you'd be dead for sure, she said. I told you I am resilient, I joked. However, did you manage it? Her face told me she wanted me to recount the entire noble feat in vivid detail. This was a problem. It's an ancient trick from the North to smother fires. I thought it worth a go, I said, hoping she'd not press further. She pulled away, ending our contact, as if remembering herself. I kept my eyes firmly shut. Are your eyes all right? She asked. Oh good, another problem. Quite. Damn, when would my eyes cool so I could open them without scaring her completely? Then why are you keeping them closed? I felt her reaching her hand towards my face. I stepped back. A speck of soot is all. Still, I'd like to examine. I took another step back, away. My lady, come look. The printing press appears unscathed. Once it dries out, we should be able to print a small amount while we repair the rest of the shop.
And that is the only reason he fucking gets away with it.
Yup.
No, it's a great sequence. And like I said, I give Sigyn a bit of a pass for just, like, believing it in that moment, because she's just relieved.
Which, like, fair, but also, like, it's a trick from the North.
It's a moment where I'm like, sir, you are the god of lies.
Oh, here's another one you'd like. Hang on. A sharp claw cracked through the open window. Peering behind her, those two black beasts of Odin sat on the windowsill, clucking and growling at me. Munion's right eye turned a vivid blue. Well, this was new. I told you to leave Sigyn alone, Odin's voice warned me from within my mind. He spoke through ravens now? He was getting uncomfortably good with his charms. And then it's him talking to Sigyn for a little bit, and then it's, I know you're scorning me, Odin's voice echoed again in my mind, punishing me for leaving you behind. I've given you time to traipse around and have your fun, but the novelty has worn off, Loki. Come home, now. Oh dear, whatever would I decide?
And then the next chapter is like, fuck him.
And then the literal opening sentence of the next chapter is, Odin and his flying rats could piss off.
Yep. No, that's what it was, is he was supposed to come with them to, like, a battle, and then he gets left behind, so he gets mad and goes back to Sigyn. Loki's not known to be real mature.
Petty.
Yes.
So, you know the epitome of the, like, petty queen gay guy?
It's Loki.
It's Loki.
It's Loki. Oh, and I love him for it, but oh my god.
But oh my god.
It's so funny. So there is kind of, what is it, like a couple week sequence where him and Sigyn, like, establish a routine where they're, like, working on repairing the shop. Like, he's staying at her house in, like, a spare bedroom, I believe. So they'll, like, hang out some in the evening since, you know, they live in the same place. Like, they're spending genuinely probably almost every waking moment together to some degree.
Quality time.
Yes. It's important in a budding relationship. A
budding relationship.
Yeah, that's what we'll call it, sure.
Just quiet stalking.
Yeah. Well, like, he runs errands with her, and I actually really love this sequence. So she takes him into the church, and first of all, he has this moment of, like, I've never been in a church. Uncomfy.
Can I go in a church? Will I burn?
Thought sequence. It's just like, am I gonna be fucked if I walk in here? But it's fine. But Sigyn goes in and lights 2 prayer candles, and she's like, my mom used to always light 2 candles, and now the prayers have changed, but I still also light 2 candles. I think Sigyn's candles are for her brother to find success, and for her father, who is in quite poor health, to recover if he can. But then it's very sweet. She takes out a 3rd candle, and of course Loki's like, what is this 3rd candle? And she's like, it's for you. And he just dies on the spot.
Swoon.
It's really, really sweet.
I'm going to interrupt you very briefly because apparently Zach is drowsy now. So could you please check on him to make sure he's alive?
Oh, he's fallen asleep in his office chair like 5 times in the span of this stream.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's taking some meds to treat like a cough. And whatever the fuck the doctor gave him had a drowsy warning on it, and apparently it's hitting pretty hard.
Give him some coffee.
I don't think we have coffee in the house, actually. Which is funny, because he does drink that. Yeah, he's okay, Aya. He's just got a pretty nasty cough. That's been fucking him up. So, yeah, I said I'll let him give details if he wants to. But basically, the doctor just gave him meds, and he took them for the first time like an hour ago. So, said he hasn't slept well all week, plus the meds are making him drowsy.
Oh.
So he's pretty sleepy.
Go to bed!
You could probably go take, like, a power nap.
Or just, sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, my only thing with him going to, like, bed right now is he'll probably wake up really fucking early and not be able to fall back asleep.
Oh dear, however will he survive?
I know. Are you waving at stream?
Don't make that face at me. I saw that face.
You said don't make that face at me?
That face right there. That one.
It's a little sarcastic, isn't it?
It is.
But no, he's okay. The sleepy meds are just hitting, basically.
I think he just may have gone to bed.
I think he did go to lay down for a little bit. Which is fine, because he was sleeping regardless, whether it was in the bed or in his chair.
Exactly.
But yeah, no. He has also not had a great week.
It's the hell week.
Yeah, it really is. This is like the kind of week I expect to have when people like worry about like planet alignments and shit. Anyway.
You'll be proud of me.
Oh yeah?
I almost just updated my Discord and then stopped myself because I remembered I was in a Discord call with you.
To be fair, that would have been really funny.
Oh, it would have been.
God. I just would have been talking into the void for God knows how long.
Well, I have your stream open, right? So like I hear your voice in my ears.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, it's just I'm watching stream and I forget I'm the one talking.
Uh-huh. You are. You got your little
goodness.
kitty on screen and everything.
Kitty.
I do like your little animated kitty cat.
I like my animated kitty cat. We got derailed, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. But no, like, this church sequence is very sweet, because Sigyn is, like, not trying to, like, impress him or anything by lighting this candle. She just, like, genuinely wants good things for Lucas.
Who is Loki, but
right.
also...
But, like, Loki doesn't know what to do with this.
Well, because we don't light candles. We just kill things.
Right. Well, and on top of that, I believe this is one of the first moments where her element of, like, fidelity, like, lights up directly when talking about him. There's a couple times that this happens where, like, certain subjects will come up, and that's when, like, her element will glow. It happens a lot talking about, like, her brother or her dad. And I believe this is one of the earlier sequences where it happens talking about Loki. And Loki also...
accurate.
And he also does not know what to do with this information.
There's a lot of this book that's just, what do I do with this? Oh, fuck.
It's a lot of Loki just being like, oh, I'm being treated nicely? What? Wait. Like, I hate to say, but that's a lot of what it is.
Well, and he's not treated well.
No. Like, I think part of... Not that I don't think Sigyn is brilliant, because I do. But I think part of the reason he falls for her so quickly is because she just gives him basic human decency.
Basic human decency.
Like, she's got other qualities too, but like...
Oh my god, I have the hiccups.
Oh no. Just hold your breath? That never works.
I'll be back!
So at this point, they at least have like a pretty solid friendship, right? We've moved through a couple of weeks of like working together. We've had this candle sequence that is very sweet.
It's adorable.
Yes. Something that he has not done is met her father. Kind of at her behest, right? Like, he is in quite poor health. She is very stressed trying to do everything and also take care of her probably dying father. So Loki is like pretty respectful of that to his credit. There are a few sequences where he does like the wrong thing for the right reasons, and we're about to get into like 3 things right in a fucking row. After the church scene, he goes into the shop. They're like running errands. She's got to go get like herbs to make medicines for her dad. and there's a lady in there, and I forget exactly what her role in the town is, but they speak semi-regularly, like, just due to, like, living in the same town. And she's kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
She's nice. She starts shit-talking Sigyn's brother, and of course Sigyn's like, I don't really appreciate that. And then she's like, I just feel so bad for you, Sigyn. And Sigyn's like, why? She's like, your brother's reputation is like ruining yours, and you're like this single woman. It's like basically she's implying that like she should have a family and like try to save her honor and like all this. And Sigyn's like, what in the fuck are you talking about? Like, she's having absolutely none of it. Which, good for her. But Loki takes it maybe a little too far. He steps in basically to be like, how fucking dare you? Which, fair. But then he like exposes this poor woman to the chaos in his eyes and just like genuinely traumatizes her on the fucking spot.
Which, again, on brand, but maybe excessive.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds good, Leaf. Have fun. Like, it's extremely on brand. It's very character appropriate. But there's this moment where Sigyn's like, bro, what the fuck? She's an old lady. What did you do? And Loki's like, what do you mean? She threatened you. And it's like, no, bitch. What is wrong with you?
If you would like a hilarious anecdote,
oh,
I just looked sideways and saw my cat jump out of his basket.
Uh-huh.
And just, his tail is all kinked because he was sitting on it.
Yeah.
But, like, so he walks away, and his tail is still kinked. He's just, like, keeping it kinked.
Oh,
and I'm just like, oh, honey.
That's delightful. Oh my god, your cat's so cute. I fucking love the picture you sent me recently.
The one Khajiit has wears if you have coin.
Uh-huh. He's, like, just sitting by a thing of recycling.
Just like Khajiit has wears if you have coin.
Yeah. Oh my god. But yeah, no, Sigyn's like, hey, yo, what the fuck? Why did you do that? Which feels like a fair response. Because what the fuck, Loki? That was a bad decision. But he, like, doesn't understand. Like,
he legitimately doesn't get it.
He's like, why were you upset? I defended your honor. She was threatening you. Like, what is the problem? And Sigyn's like, you're a moron. I'm gonna go take this poor woman home. Stay here. And what I do think is, like, a little petty, but I kind of love, because he kind of needs it in that moment. She takes this woman home, and then goes home without him.
Which, like, again, he needs a reality check here.
Like, is it maybe a little petty on her part because she's, like, mad at him? Sure. But, like, in a weird way, that's part of what makes him, like, listen to what she has to say when he does go to her house. And he's like, hey, yo, what? She's like, what? She's like, what do you mean, what? She's an old lady. She wasn't a threat. What is wrong with you?
But that is, a lot of that is from the time period that he was imagined in.
Oh, yeah?
So when you look at the time period of the Norse culture as a whole, it was everybody is a threat. It doesn't matter how old or young they are.
Right.
Everybody is a threat unless they're one of your clan.
Do you think, not that I think he made the right decision, but to give him a point as far as reason is concerned, she kind of says this thing of, like, she was just saying stuff. She wasn't threatening me. Like, she wasn't going to, like, attack me. And Loki's like, bold of you to assume that words are not a threat just because she's not doing anything.
So, lot of...
In that scenario, he is wrong, but he has a point.
He absolutely has a point. In the culture of the Norse time period, in that mythos, insults were insults were two things. They were either a way to blow off steam or they were a way to start a fight. And there was no middle ground.
Insults were, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but to some degree, like, insulting someone was basically throwing the first punch sometimes, yeah?
Yeah, it was. So, like, if you had friends and you had a problem, you would insult each other, you'd throw some punches, and then laugh it off and drink.
Yeah. Which does say a lot to me about why Thor and Tyr are the way that they are, I gotta say.
It's true. I will be right back. I am out of drink and require more.
You're fine. I'm just gonna go into the bit with Simon.
Cool.
So basically, well, I guess the thing with her dad happens first. So there's this bit. So they more or less make up. Loki apologizes for what he did, which I think is really cool. Because, like, Loki does the thing where he's like, clearly I have upset you. That was not what I was trying to do. Like, I am sorry. Which I think is great. Because I get the feeling he probably doesn't apologize much. Where he's so defensive all the time with everyone in Asgard. That's not, like, explicitly said anywhere, but just, like, there's so many character dynamics in Asgard where I think even if he knew he was wrong, he probably wouldn't apologize unless he, like, had to. Where this is very much a, like, voluntary apology. But we go from that into her dad is in active, massive pain. So he's, like, yelling and hollering. Of course, it's like, what the fuck? And he hasn't been doing well for a while. Sigyn has been running herself ragged, trying to keep him okay, and trying to do everything else she's trying to do. But she will not hire a nursemaid or anything else for her father. So he is actively, like, struggling and wailing and, like, having a hard fucking time. And Loki is just now getting to see her dad, and he realizes pretty much immediately that her dad has cancer. He asks about, like, the pain. She said it started in his hip, I believe. And then at first he was just kind of tired, and then it grows. It's a very, like, typical, like, system, very textbook symptoms of cancer, I should say. You can see the mass on him at this point. And Loki, like, fully knows that this man is probably dead, right? Because, like, there's nothing he can do at that point. Even if there was something he could do, Loki is not a healer. His element is chaos. So he's like, fuck, this man's about to die. Shit. So she is managing, and he goes downstairs to brew a hemlock potion drink, something that is supposed to at least help ease his pain, because he is in active pain at the moment. Like, he's on death's door for sure. So Loki goes downstairs, and he's putting this together. He's doing it correct. Like, he knows what he's doing in this respect, or at least that's kind of the implication that we get, where she's like, do it this way, and he's like, yes, I know, I got it, you do others, like, go. And in walks motherfucking Simon. So Simon is Sigyn's useless ass brother, whom I do not like. He has shown up. He's like, who the fuck are you? He assumes that Loki is her lover and makes a crack about, like, glad to see she broke a rule eventually. And of course Loki's like, you're a fucking moron, what do you want? Loki does tell Simon that his father is dying upstairs. It becomes very clear that Simon didn't really know that his dad was that ill. And I do feel for Simon a little bit in that moment, because that sucks. He becomes very distressed. He's like, I can't deal with losing another parent. I just can't, because they had already lost their mother. That's part of the reason the family was so fractured to begin with. So he's like, I literally cannot deal with this. I just came here to get a necklace from Sigyn. And like, he needs money, effectively, is what's going on, which is part of the reason he's so fucking irritating. The necklace that he is after is a gift to Sigyn from her mother. It's a very, very big deal to her. She loves that necklace. So, of course, Loki's like, what is wrong with you? Your sister loves that necklace. Why would you take it? And Simon's like, it's worth more money anyway. Like, we can split some of it if she wants. And Loki's like, you're fucking stupid. Which I don't disagree. I don't know that Loki made a great choice here. But, Loki kind of has this moment where he's like, I have to protect Sigyn. I have to protect Sigyn. And of course you're like, Loki, what does that mean, sir? What does that mean? And at first that you kind of think like he's probably like setting Simon away in some respect, like making sure Simon doesn't come back. He does make sure that Simon doesn't come back, but it's because he kills him via suffocation. Oof. I will say, as much as I think this is a terrible choice, he does have good intentions. I will give him that. More importantly, though, there's no way this doesn't bite him in the ass, right? Like, there's no shot. So he kills Simon. He finishes the potion or whatever. He goes upstairs. Sigyn's like, what took you so long?
I'm back.
Hello! I just got done talking about Loki suffocating Simon in the living room.
Which is not a bad decision.
It's a
questionable decision.
I don't think it's a good decision. I think it's a bad decision done for good reasons, and I low-key kind of think Simon deserves it.
Exactly. It's not a bad decision.
I
have a brownie.
Ooh. All I could think when I read that sequence, realistically, was just like, there's no way this doesn't come back to bite him. Like, there's no fucking shot. Because of course he's not going to tell anyone that he did that.
Well, of course not. That would make too much sense.
Right. But he fucking does it anyway. I don't know. But he does take the, I'm hesitant to call it a potion, the, like, herbal remedy thing, up to Sigyn. They give it to her dad. It's not helping, because he is actively dying in this moment, basically. To put it lightly. Loki did something here that I think he considers kind of self-serving, but that I actually consider quite lovely. He casts an illusion over her father so that he appears at peace before he dies.
So, hang on.
You're fine.
I don't find that self-serving at all.
No.
Because it gives her peace.
Yeah. I think the only thing that hit me a little weird was him kind of speaking for her dad as he died. I thought that was a bit strange.
Strange, yes, but still not self-serving.
No, definitely not. It's very much this thing of, like, he wanted to protect her from the pain of watching her father die a, like, fucking horrible death. And, like, fair?
Also, character development for him. Right. Like, he cared enough to be like, no, she shouldn't see this.
And it's worth mentioning that, like, this illusion was difficult for him to cast. Because the will of her dying father was fighting the illusion. So he basically had to force it. And, like, you don't do that unless you, like, care about whatever you're trying to do, generally speaking. In some way.
And this is a little bit of a sad topic, but when I was still with my ex, my ex-mother-in-law and I were very close.
Yeah.
And she passed away while I was still with my ex. And I was there when she passed. And she had cancer, and at the very end, she was having a lot of difficulty breathing.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in her room
listening to her choking and gasping for an hour while her body was shutting down.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the whole thing, right? Is like her father is dying a quite gruesome death.
Yeah.
Particularly because this is like before any level of like modern medicine. Like they don't really know what he even has to try and treat it.
Exactly. Like, and it's hard
Loki
to watch someone die.
It's hard to watch anyone go through anything like medically difficult, I think, particularly anything like death, because it's so permanent.
And he cares enough to try and make it easier for her.
And I do think this moment goes a little bit beyond him like caring for Sigyn. I do think some of this is him just like being kind of just a decent person of like, if I can do this, why shouldn't I?
Exactly.
So it's so funny to me that this kind of gets, we'll get to that in a minute, but fuck Odin basically. But no, so there's these 3 sequences of events that happen fairly close together of Loki doing varying levels of good or questionable things, but all for like good reason, which is again just so painfully on brand. Like, man, you're trying your best, but it does not always land, does it, hun?
No, he's very much so the I've done the wrong thing, but I've done it with the best intentions person.
Right. I would argue that the next big thing that happens is him and Sigyn, basically admit that they are into each other.
That they love each other. Let's be real here.
Yeah. And then they have their first kiss, and then they immediately have sex. It's the most realistic thing ever. But that's okay.
There's no middle ground there.
Yeah. I think... So, typically in a story when you jump right to sex, I'm usually kind of like, ayo, the fuck? The way that the book describes it is like Loki has kind of this extra sensory thing where he can feel like energies and elements and such. And there's kind
Think about it like reading auras.
Right. So when they kiss particularly, like some of that kind of, I don't know, comes into him, I guess. I can't think of a good phrase for it. But like their auras and things kind of make, I know. But their auras or energies or elements or whatever you want to call it mix during this like physical contact. So it makes it very intense, which I have to assume plays a part, right? Like
they touch spirits. Let's just say it like that, and then I'll stop giggling.
I might not, but that's okay.
It's okay.
Damn it. So they have sex, which is all, fun and dandy. We don't need a ton of details on that, mostly because Twitch will probably get upset with me.
There is sexual intercourse.
Yes. It is also worth mentioning that it is storming outside.
Because of course it is.
Yeah. Well, there's this moment where Loki, acknowledges the storm and then goes back to Sigyn, and I'm like, there's no fucking way that's not Thor, right? Right? And then
right?
He waits for them to finish.
Thankfully, he does that.
It's probably for the best. But then Thor and Tyr, which I was a little surprised by, show up to come and get him, basically. And they're like, ayo, you gotta get back to Asgard, you fuck. What? Hello? But Loki does not want to go. He promised Sigyn 5 seconds ago that he would not leave her. Genuinely, they fell asleep on a fur rug in her house. She's like, promise me you won't go anywhere. He promises it, and then these two guys show up.
Because of course they do.
Oh my god, the timing is painful, truly. They figure out pretty quickly that Loki is in love with this woman. And it's literally
not hard to tell.
I also genuinely cannot get over the fact that Loki is absolutely fucking garbage about lying when it comes to Sigyn.
Which is kind of adorable.
It's adorable, but also so funny as a character who prides himself on being, like, a silver tongue.
He's called the lie smith in the books, and he can't lie about this woman.
I know! Which is adorable, but also, you dumbass.
But also, you dumbass.
This is something that would actually be probably important to lie about, and you can't do it because you're too in love with her. That's cute, but also, stop
Goddamn.
That's basically it, Aya. He's a puddle of mush, and all of his, like, lying circuitry has just stopped functioning for a little bit.
So think about it this way. This is a man who can shapeshift, who can illusion, who can do basically whatever he wants to get whoever he wants. And none of this shit...
Who can convince someone that Thor is a woman.
Yeah. And none of that shit works on her. So he falls in love with her. And then he gets to be with her. And then Thor and Tyr show up and are like, dude, what the fuck? And then he's like, but it's fine. I'm just wetting my wick.
And they're like, you're a goddamn liar, but okay.
And he's like, no, I'm not lying about this. She means nothing. And they're like, you're an idiot, but okay.
Tyr does make, like, an arguably valid point of, like, you do understand that you're a deity and she's a human. Like, she's gonna die. Which, like, while an upsetting point, is correct and valid. But then Loki has the idea where, because she has the element of, like, fidelity, that she could be turned into a goddess. So he does a 180, agrees to come back to Asgard, and of course, Thor and Tyr are, like, confused but taking the win, basically. They're like, you know what? If you're not gonna make us make you come back, sure.
So, from a pantheon standpoint, this is on brand for Thor and Tyr.
Oh yeah?
They're like, cool, it's a win. We got it. We got the win.
There's a moment where Tyr's like, really? And Thor's like, shut up.
Yeah, also, again, Tyr is justice and truth, and Thor is thunder and lightning.
Right? Tyr's like, wait, really? But like 5 seconds ago, you were in Thor's literally like, Tyr, shut up, let's go. Why are you questioning it? We're leaving.
Don't question it. We're leaving. Let's go. Get in the car. Don't make me turn this hammer around.
Literally. And like, not to like toot my own horn. I've like read and written enough stories that like I understand when something is about to go poorly, right?
And it's about to go poorly here.
Well, he leaves Sigyn's house and I'm like, you're not going back. You think you're going back, but you're not. I don't know why yet, but you're not. Because it's like too like, I'll be right back. Sure you are, bud.
It's like, I'm just going for cigarettes and milk. I'll be right back.
Uh-huh. It's like, sure you are, bud. I would like for you to be right, but I know better. See, the thing about that, Aya, is I think if Loki wanted to fight him, Thor would not have a problem with it.
So, Thor, from the Pantheon, which actually translate over really well into the books.
Oh, good.
Thor is the stereotypical Norse person. So, oh, you want to fight? Let's go, bitch.
Like, not stupid, but, like, definitely ready to throw hands at all times.
Yeah, so the book portrays him a little dumber than the history does.
Right, of course.
but he's basically...
clear, he's portrayed as stupid in this book because Loki thinks he is stupid.
Yes. But he's basically like, oh, throw hands? Let's go. He's the guy that's like, someone puts a beer bottle down too loud in a bar, and he breaks one and is like, fuck yeah, let's go, bitches! There's no middle ground.
A part of me does love that in its own weird little way.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah, like, I don't embody that particularly, but I appreciate it, I guess, is the way I'll put that.
Fair.
Ooh.
You have an ooh.
I know Thomas is over here memeing in my chat. That's what I was laughing at. Hello.
Woo.
But they go back. Loki goes to Odin because he, like, wants to know how to make Sigyn a goddess. Odin gaslights him for an entire half a fucking chapter.
It's true.
Oh my god. I was so angry at this part.
I don't blame you.
He just gaslights him into thinking he's a bad person.
But Loki also believes it.
I know, that's why it makes me angry.
Keeping in mind, this is after he goes through the whole thing with Sigyn's father and is trying to make it easier on her and trying to be as good of a person as he can be, and he's doing all of these things.
Loki is at his most honest, and Odin convinces him that he's a piece of shit.
Yep. Because that's what Odin do.
We do get a sequence where he talks about how you would turn someone into, like, a god. Someone into an immortal, we'll say. And basically you have to take a piece of your essence and put it into them, but it could kill them depending on, like, how robust they are as, like, a race and as a person. So, like, Odin's like, you do realize this would, like, likely kill her. And Loki's kind of like, but it might work.
Yeah, Loki, as a general rule, makes bad decisions.
I'll say Loki, in a lot of ways, I think is the definition of a chaotic good. In that, he operates according to his own morals and no one else's, and will break others' rules for his own objectives.
Agree with that.
So his thing is like, okay, this could kill her, but also it might not, and fuck the laws of nature is kind of his thing here. Which, you know, maybe not smart, but sure.
Again, questionable decisions.
Right. But he hasn't done anything yet. Because it's very clear to... I presume it's very clear to Odin that, like, Loki intends to, like, attempt this anyway if he gets the chance. And then Odin straight fucking gaslights him. He's like, she doesn't even know who you are. You've been lying to her this whole time. Loki's like, I've done these things to protect her. And Odin effectively says, no, you've done it to protect what you want. Which, fuck Odin. I think he makes a good point in that their relationship has not been honest. Because it hasn't been. Like, she doesn't know that he's Loki. Also, he killed her brother, so, like, there's that. Odin throws that right in his fucking face, too, which is annoying. Because Loki's like, oh my god. Because Odin's literally spying on him the entire time.
Yeah, which... not cool.
Yeah. Like, my whole thing, right, is that, like, I don't think their relationship was, like, honest per se, and that, like, he does lie to her. Like, that's... I don't argue that. But I don't think it's fair of Odin to just lay everything on Loki like that, because Loki has never, like, denied that he's, like, a chaotic little weirdo. Like,
so,
and even...
yes and
Even if he was going to leave, I just wish it could have been, like, on his own volition, or, like, said something just, like, I just wish he hadn't been gaslit into leaving. Like, I wish he had done it on his own terms if he was going to.
So, my thing with it has always been, when you look at what Loki is in the books, it's Odin thinks he's protecting her.
He thinks he's protecting both of them in a weird way.
Yeah, and Odin is supposed to be the Allfather. He's supposed to be the Grand Protector. So, of course he's going to try and protect the both of them. Whether he does it well or not is a matter of perspective. And for him, he thinks he's doing the right thing. He's not.
Right.
Unequivocally not.
Right.
But he thinks he's helping.
And I do think, like, that becomes more evident the further in you get. I think that's not quite as clear at this point. Yeah. But, like, there are conversations that we get later that make that more abundantly clear. In this moment, Odin reads as incredibly selfish from Loki's perspective. Because, like, I do think to some degree he's trying to protect Sigyn and he's trying to protect Loki. Like, I agree. On the other side of that, I think this is 100%, or not 100%, maybe like 40 to 60% also to get the man that he would like to get back together with away from the woman that he loves.
Except he also has a wife who won't let him near the man he would like to get back together with.
Right, which is why that motive is confusing to me. You're not gonna do anything, like, so I understand, like, it's a complex thing. I guess my thing with that kind of comes down to, like, you can't really do anything about the fact that you are still in love with him anyway.
Yeah, which, like,
I mean, that's a whole fucking thing anyway, dude. We're gonna have a conversation about Frigg later, don't worry.
Yeah, we are. I know we are.
Holy shit. I have thoughts about her. But no, like, this is just, like, a really frustrating sequence from, like, a third-person perspective, because you're, like, watching Loki, like, kill himself to stay in Asgard because he thinks that's what's best for Sigyn, even though, like, he basically got talked into believing that that's what's best for Sigyn by someone else.
And by someone else, we mean Odin.
Yeah, it just sucks. We then go into... Ah, yeah, that's amazing. What the hell, Twitch? Twitch, you good? Oh my god.
Twitch is clearly channeling me.
Oh my god. So funny. So Loki then just spirals, basically?
Can you blame him?
No. Just kind of, like, hides in his room and gets really drunk a lot. There's, like...
Again, can you blame him?
Still no. There's, like, a sequence where Frigg, like, taunts him, and he's like, I just want to go get drunk. Can you... What? Please leave.
Can you... Yeah, like, can you please fuck off? I'm done with you.
She's, like, enjoying that the god of lies is broken, or the liesmith is broken, and he's like, can you leave me alone? I don't want to do this. Like, I would like to be drunk and to drown out, because throughout this whole thing, his headaches have been getting worse. So he's basically like, I miss Sigyn, my head hurts, I just want to go drink and sleep. Which, like,
again,
so fair.
Can you blame him?
So fair. So fair. But then, I say but then a lot anyway. He does get back to his room just in time to get, like, flung into a full-blown vision of the apocalypse, basically. Which is incredible, I think, personally. It's such a mood switch.
It's such a good sequence, too.
Oh, it is. Well, because there's this figure in the vision that he speaks to. They talk about the destroyer who's supposed to bring on this chaos. The spirit is very cool and extremely ominous. They talk about Vigridir, I think is maybe how you say that. Which I
spell it for me.
Vigrider.
Vigridir.
Yeah, there you go. But all in all, like, this is all channeling into like the spirit, as Loki refers, is like, this is inevitable. Like, I think this is where we get the line. Is this where we get the line Ragnarok is inevitable?
Yeah.
So he's like, what the fuck is Ragnarok? And the spirit is like, oh, it's when everything gets destroyed. And very understandably, he goes, excuse me?
I'm sorry, what? Excuse me, I'm sorry, what?
That's such a fair reaction.
Yeah, exactly.
I will never say that Loki does everything correctly, but he's so relatable. In that, like, that's a totally understandable reaction. Like, I just wanted to go be drunk in my room. Now I'm in a vision and the world is ending. Why?
There's so much of him in this book that's just like, I can't say I would react differently.
Yeah, no, 100. Well, that's what I mean by relatable, is like, he feels so much like a person, where it's just like, that's a reasonable reaction. And even when your reaction isn't reasonable, I understand why. They make him
nice to see, too.
They make him extremely sympathetic.
Which is good.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially as, like, one of my favorite things is when a character who is, like, quote-unquote, the villain or the antagonist gets humanized. Like, they don't have to be tragic. I love Maleficent, and she's only tragic if you watch that one movie. But I just love when you get, like, the personality, and you kind of go, huh. You do bad stuff, but, like, you're not necessarily a bad person. You're just the antagonist in this scenario.
And that's Loki.
That's a good point, Aya. Reasonable reactions do make for shorter stories. Messy drama makes it longer. That's correct.
Messy drama also makes it more interesting.
Correct. Which is the point to some degree. But he gets out of this vision, kind of gets booted out of it, to be honest.
Yeah, it's not gentle.
No. But he kind of has this moment where he's like, okay, shit, I gotta do something about this. Like, I gotta go. I asked if Sigyn was in danger, and I got the answer, literally everyone is in danger. I gotta go.
Yeah, like, we got shit to do, kids. Let's move.
I think the literal note that I wrote for this section is just, nothing like a crisis to make you functional. Which I maybe relate to a little too much, but that's alright.
You and me both. It's like crisis time, cool. Suddenly I am sober and functional and have good ideas.
Suddenly I am fine, regardless of what else is going on. Suddenly I'm fine, I will deal with all of that later.
Yep.
But he more or less gets his shit together, and he goes to see, I need you to help me out with her name. The mother of his children. The mother of his children.
Which children? Angerboda?
Yes, Angerboda.
Okay.
Well, yes, oh my god, Hell's mom.
Angerboda.
Yeah. I went to say one of his children's names, and my whole brain like stopped. I was like, he has 3 of them. I just need 1.
Oh, he has more than 3.
I know, but in this moment, they talk about 3.
Well, like, fair, but when you say the mother of his children, I'm like, which mother? Which children?
I know, but in this moment...
Yes, but my brain goes to the place.
No, but like, at Angerboda, this one. The one of the bigger ones in Norse culture, yes?
No.
Kind of? Oh, okay.
Kinda. So she's the mother...
Isn't she considered, like, his mate or something?
Sigyn's actually his wife.
Oh, okay. I got something mixed up in my brain somewhere then.
So, he had his children with Angerboda.
Yes.
Oh my god, hiccups. Fuck. Hang on.
They were doing so well.
They were. So he had his children with Angerboda, which was Hel and Jormungandr and somebody else, whose name escapes me currently.
Oh my god, what's the third one?
Hang on. To Google we go, because I'm a bad Norse pagan.
I feel like I should know this.
I'm sorry, I'm on book club.
Is it Fenrir?
I'm sorry. Fenrir, yes.
Hey. My whole brain just short-circuited for a moment.
I'm sorry, I will take a headphone off. I love you.
Are you getting yelled at?
Did you have a brownie? Go have a brownie. Yeah, Casey's going to bed and he yelled at me because I'm being too loud because apparently he can hear me upstairs.
Oh, fair enough.
But
yes, we go to see Angerboda, who is the mother of Hel, Fenrir, and Jormungandr.
Yes.
We got there. It's fine.
And then Sigyn has other children of his.
Well, yes, and yeah, because he's fathered and mothered many children. In the Norse pantheon at this point.
And then he has Sleipnir, which we will touch on later.
I just want to talk about that because it's funny.
I mean, it's a spider horse.
No, that's why it's funny. But we go. So he goes to meet Angerboda. I immediately like her so much in her introduction.
She's lovely.
She's great. The first thing she does is throw knives, so he's stuck to her front door. And it's so good. This is another situation where I think he, like, also still kind of likes her in a way. Like, he loves Sigyn, but I do think he's still a little bit into her at this point.
Again, can you blame him?
No, not at all. And they had agreed to not see each other after their 3 children were sent away from the realm, basically. I don't
because
remember...
of Ragnarok.
Right, but we don't know that yet.
Yes, but because of Ragnarok.
Yes, because of Ragnarok. Odin said it was because their children were, like, monsters, which, like, you know, Jormungandr. Fair. So
and Fenrir.
Yeah, so
and Hel.
Yeah. So he sent them away, so Hel becomes ruler over the dead. And I kind of forget where the other 2 go, other than Jormungandr being fucking huge for obvious reasons.
Fenrir ends up getting sent to, sent away. He's not sent to a specific thing, he's just sent away.
I think Hel is the only one that's sent to a specific place.
Jormungandr's supposed to protect Midgard, which is why he circles the earth.
That's right, okay. Point being, none of them are in the realm anymore, and that, like, really upset Angerboda and Loki, so they had kind of agreed to not affiliate with each other because it was, like, painful to do so.
Yeah.
But he goes anyway and is like, hey, I need your help. And she basically goes, will it piss off Odin? He goes, yeah, probably. She goes, cool, let's go.
Which is, again, mood.
Brings me so much joy. Particularly in this context. She also sees through all of his shit and once again makes him look like a terrible liar, which I just find endlessly funny by this point in the book.
Again, mood.
So she sends him to see a seeress, basically. There's a technical term they use in the book. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Spell it?
It's V and then an O with the 2 dots above it, and then it's LVA.
Volving.
Okay, I mostly just don't know how to...
Or vulva.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking it was, but I don't know how to pronounce the O when it's got the dots above it like that, so...
Just pronounce it like a normal O and you're probably close enough.
Sure enough. I thought you were taking a nap. What are you doing ooh-wooing in my chat? Sir. God damn it. But he goes to see her in La Florida, which just brings me some joy, to be honest. I tried, my lungs prevented it. Oh, that's fair. I mean, you can nap in your chair. I didn't tell you to leave.
Probably still help on pillows. You'll be fine.
Yeah, he's got several pillows in there. But he goes to see a seeress whose name is Golda. And this is the same one that we talked about earlier that Odin went and saw and traded his eye for knowledge. This is the same lady that has his eye somewhere.
But does she still have it, or has she traded it to somebody else for something else?
It's also possible. She had it at some point in time, posted, leaving Odin's eye socket. Loki getting to her house is very funny because he literally has to walk through the swamp and it makes him very upset.
He's getting dirty.
My question here is like, sir, can't you shapeshift?
Shapeshift into a snake and shapeshift back. You'll be fine.
Shapeshift into a snake? Or like a bird? Or like, I don't know. You don't have to wade through the river. There are options. Why did you do this to yourself?
Again, Loki makes questionable decisions.
Yeah. But he does find Golda. She basically makes him give her his mother's dagger for the information that he wants, which, like, hurts me a little bit inside. But, you know, that's kind of the point.
Yep.
She's a hilarious character. She's, like, a grimy, probably older lady who, like, lives in a hut and sees the future.
Which tracks, actually.
It's pretty great. Turned into a fish and like swam down the river. See, he didn't have to go through the swamp like this. He didn't have to do this.
No, again, Loki sometimes comes up with ideas that are not always.
I get the feeling that sometimes he just doesn't think the plan all the way through.
You're not wrong.
Like, I think he went to go see Golda. And went, I'm gonna go see Golda, and like did not think about the logistics of going to see a swamp lady.
So I kind of choose to think about it as you ever have that moment where you know you're doing something stupid, but you just continue to do it anyway because you're too stubborn to stop?
Oh, like you're committed. Yeah.
Yeah, like I'm committed to this stupidity. That's Loki.
Yeah. I could definitely see him hitting a point of, like, my clothes are already ruined at this point. It doesn't matter. Like, I could definitely see that being, like, at play. But this sequence is fucking, like, wild, right? Because, like, any time in which a seer or seeress or a vulva, like, enters a story, like, shit's weird for, like, a solid bit, right?
Yeah.
Because you've got people who, like, definitely know stuff that they, like, probably shouldn't.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
So, long story short, Odin is freaked out by Sigyn because Sigyn is, quote, the person that will bear the sign that instigates Ragnarok. And no one knows what that means, But, like, that's part of the reason why Odin's like, oh shit, she's, like, here and exists. And then about 5 seconds later, you find out that Loki is the Destroyer. Which, like, let's be super clear, I called that shit a while ago.
And again, tracks. Yep. Loki is supposed to bring on Ragnarok in the Norse mythology.
Yep. It's the same deal in, actually the new God of War game. There's a lot of talk of, like, Ragnarok and Loki and such. I won't get into specifics, because I know there are people in my chat playing that game, but I would like to not ruin plot points for them that I know and they don't. But that is, main theme of the game is, like, Ragnarok and things affiliated with Ragnarok. Like Fimbulwinter and such.
Yes.
But, like, Loki is, like, really upset about, like, him being the Destroyer. And then he's like, wait a minute. I can just not cause Ragnarok. I have, like, the power to just not do that. Which makes me just kind of want to pat him on the head and be like, sure, honey. That's definitely the vibe that I got from the beginning of this book.
Yeah, sure, honey. That's how that works.
It's like, you definitely weren't swearing to destroy everything standing in that church. But okay. I do kind of like Golda being, like, weirdly elated about the apocalypse. That was just kind of, like, a moment of fun.
Agreed.
But there's a bit in the story about his kids, whereas, like, his kids will bring ruin or something. And then Loki realizes that that is why Odin sent his children away, and it had nothing to do with, like, their safety. Which sucked.
Yep.
Mostly because, like, this is the moment that everyone has lied to, like, Loki realizes everyone has been lying to him.
And it hurts his soul.
Yeah, which, like, again, that's a reasonable reaction to finding out everyone that you have ever tried to, like, befriend in your home sucks. And has lied to you.
He's called the Liesmith.
Right,
he is known for lying to everybody.
He was the only one being even remotely honest about, like...
Exactly.
Yeah, like, that's kind of the whole thing, and why I think the book is called, like, Truth and Other Lies. Is there's a lot of, like, the lies versus the truth in this book, and who is telling which part.
Yep. And it's not who you think.
The only person that I truly think is, like, telling the truth pretty much the entire time in this book is Sigyn.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
the good thing about Loki, and part of the thing that I would say is 100% worth thinking about, is he's the one who's honest about his lies.
Yeah. See, and that's the thing with it, right? Is, like, Loki lies. Loki also doesn't act like he doesn't lie.
Exactly. He owns it.
Like, he's like, y'all, you do understand that I understand the way that I am, right? Like, you don't have to fucking throw it in my face every time you talk to me. I know.
He owns it.
Also, let's be clear, it's really mean to, like, I don't know. I hate the sequences where people are, like, being condescending to him, and, like, obviously them being mean is on purpose. But where they, like, call him things like Liesmith instead of his name. I'm like,
that's a big oof.
Guys, he knows. Like, fucking calm down. No,
so the thing...
He's, like, one of the more honest characters in the book, which, again, I think is the point.
The thing that I have always liked about his character, both in the mythology and out of it, is that he owns it. He is what he is.
He's honest about the fact that he will probably stab you in the back if it serves him.
Exactly. He's honest about his lies.
Which is a wild sentence, but very true. Like I said, I think he's one of the more honest characters in the book.
Exactly.
He's also one of the only characters who comes around and tells the truth of his own volition.
Again, exactly.
Because, like, Odin ends up confessing that, like, he knew about Loki being the destroyer, but it's because Loki had to go find out and confront him. I don't know. I'm also just gonna rag on Odin this entire time. It's fine.
I don't blame you.
The part where he thinks he can just not start Ragnarok does kind of hurt my heart a little bit, because he's so earnest about it, and he really wants to, like, not do that, because he's like, no, these people are my, like, supposed to be my friends. Like, I didn't want to hurt them.
I love them. I don't want to do this.
And it just, my heart just fucking broke in two. I'm like, oh,
it's
honey.
Like, he wants to try so hard. He wants to be more than what he is. So hard. And he can't do it.
Well, and here's something else to consider. Part of the reason that he is the way he is because of the way they treat him.
Exactly.
Like, he would always be chaotic, right? Because at least in this iteration of the story, that is his element, right?
Uh-huh.
So, like, him being, like, mischievous and whatever, I think has very little to do with that. But, like, him being a liar and him being bitter and defensive, people don't come that way.
No, it's because somebody made them that way.
Right. And in this case, the somebody is literally everyone in fucking Asgard.
Again, agreed.
I just want to fight like 99% of the people in Asgard in this book. It's fine.
I don't blame you.
One more key thing that Golda does let on is she talks about something that Odin could or would do in order to prevent Ragnarok. She kind of alludes to, like, part of his chase for knowledge being to prevent Ragnarok. And, like, him finding out what he would have to do to Loki and, like, that kind of deal. Right, and we do, Odin actually talks about that a little bit later, which I think is fascinating.
Agreed.
My next note is, not that I blame Loki for being angry, but this is probably bad. Which, like, I wasn't wrong.
You were not wrong.
Because I wrote that before I got to the next scene.
Yeah, you were not wrong.
Yup, so Loki rolls up to Asgard. There's a dinner party with people from, like, a bunch of different realms. And he just rolls up with his swamp-ass clothes and is like, hey, fuck every single one of you.
I'm done. Fuck this shit.
Like, I know what you've been hiding from me, and y'all suck for hiding it from me and for assuming that I was capable of that when I have actively helped all of you. Which is correct.
It is correct.
This is, again, a moment where I'm like, you're making a questionable choice. But I get it. Like, I would also want to go scream at a room full of people. That doesn't make it a good idea, but I understand.
I empathize.
Right. Also, this you start to figure out that, like, Frigg super sucks.
Yeah, she does.
Because, like, people in the party are, like, not being super great about it because, like, their party's been interrupted, and, like, Asgardians in particular are, like, not super chill with what's going on because they're like, Loki, what the fuck is wrong with you right now? Like, so, like, he kind of lets on that he knows about being the Destroyer and about Ragnarok, and everyone immediately is like, fuck. Oof. Except for Frigg, who proceeds to just try to berate Loki verbally. Because that's a good idea.
Decision.
Uh-huh. So he does it back, except for he's kind of better at it.
Again, shocking.
Yeah, right. Well, she's goading him about being the Destroyer. And then he basically goes, I mean, you don't love your husband, and that's why he loves me, so go fuck yourself.
Which, glorious.
I was dying. I was like, this is gonna go so badly, but she's being read to absolute filth right now. and I'm living.
100% on board.
Oh, 100%. Oh my god. He's like, your husband loved you and you did not have the time of day for him, and that is the only reason he and I happened. So don't put that shit on me when you could have just cared about your husband.
Yep.
And again, he's not wrong, but damn.
He has this way of saying things that's just like...
It's so visceral.
It's visceral, but it's also... He's so accurate, and he's called the liesmith through the whole book. But when it comes to brass tacks,
he's
sitting there like...
honest characters.
Exactly.
Like, I'll, like, make jokes about, like, oh, God of Lies, whatever, but sometimes I'm not convinced that God of Lies just means he knows how to see through other people's lies.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement.
Oh, he can sense when people are lying, by the way. That's, like, a part of his magic.
But when you look at his character, he's sitting here and he's like, hey, so y'all want to fuck with me? All right, bitch, I got this shit.
Like, again, not to necessarily condone everything that he does, but so much of what he does is in retaliation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's blowing shit up right now because people have lied to him for God knows how many years.
At this point, probably thousands of years.
Right. I feel like him being upset is extremely reasonable.
It is. 100% it is.
Yeah. The problem with this is that Frigg then goes, fuck this magic time. And she's apparently quite good at magic, which is a problem.
Yeah. Again, please see the aforementioned women and magic and stuff.
Yep. So she uses a rune on him to effectively paralyze him.
Sounds accurate.
And if y'all don't like needles, I'm sorry. She takes a needle made of dwarven steel and thread and literally sews his mouth shut.
It's like, nope, you can't talk about it. I'm done now. Bye-bye.
Which, like, I literally cannot... Like, thinking about that makes my mouth, like, my lips, like, tingle. Like, I just...
Doesn't bother me, but, again, many piercings.
So, it's not so much that I have, like, a needle phobia, but, like, the idea of someone putting a needle in me non-consensually, I think, is what gets me.
It's fair.
Because I've got 10 piercings in my ears, and, like, I'm probably piercing my nose at some point in the future. So it's not so much the needle thing, so much as just, like, having a needle and thread be forcibly dragged through my face.
So I've had my, I've had snake bites and I've had my labret done. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't super bother me because I know the pain level.
Yeah. It's implied that the pain level is worse because it's dwarven steel as well. Which,
fair. 100% fair.
Yeah.
My brain just goes to the place of, oh, well, it can't be much worse than getting my lips pierced. So, like, fair.
Yeah, I think, again, the big thing is, like, the fact that she's holding him down and doing it.
Yeah, which is 100% not okay.
Like, as opposed to you, who went and, like, sat...
And paid people money to shove needles through my face.
Right, yes, actually, yes. Now, I kind of want to get the thing where you get, like, a piercing on both sides of your nose and you get the chain that goes across your nose. I think that's cute.
I also think that's cute. I did not do that.
I might. We'll see. I don't know. I'm indecisive.
I did not like the feeling of having studs in my nose. And I did not like the feeling of having rings in my nose. And my nose kept getting fucked up. So
I get that.
I took it out and then I replaced it with my septum.
Yeah,
which holy fuck septum.
I considered getting a septum for like a month.
Out of all of my piercings, my tongue was still my most painful.
Oh, easily. I have a friend in Canada, funnily enough, who has his tongue pierced, and I asked him what it was like, and it no. I'm good.
So getting my nipples pierced was the one I felt in my body in a place other than the place they were piercing me.
Right, which makes sense.
Getting my tongue pierced was brutal for me because my mouth is too small for a normal barbell. And I had to have it switched out while my tongue was still
healing.
Like an hour after being pierced healing.
Oh, yikes. That sucks.
Because I was gagging on the top of the barbell.
Yeah, that really sucks, though.
Briefly, we were doing vibe talks because, like,
so it's relevant to the story, though.
It is.
Leaf, you missed the part where Frigg sewed Loki's mouth shut. So Lottie was explaining, like,
it can't be that bad because I got my mouth pierced.
Right. Which, like, I think this is definitely worse. But I think, honestly, it wasn't so, like, it hurt and he was panicking, but I don't know that it was so much about, like...
Can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Which heels questionable, Aya?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. I think a lot of it just had to do with, like, the like, distress of what was going on more than anything.
Yeah.
It's also the only time in the entire book that I said the sentence, "Oh good, Odin is here." Because, like, he puts a stop to it, effectively. He's like, no, this is enough. This is bad. No.
Bad touch, no thanks.
So he takes Loki away to, like, I think, does he take him to Loki's room or Odin's room? I forget.
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
Takes him to a room away from everyone else, effectively. Does not unsew his mouth immediately, which I don't know how that's not where you start.
I feel like that should be where you start.
Yeah.
The two on the nose of the chain heals questionably, according to the piercers that Aya has talked to.
So, when I say that I want to do that, I wouldn't immediately start with the chain. I would, like, pierce my nose, let it heal, and then put a chain on it. Because it's not like a body mod, it's just 2 piercings with a chain on them, is my understanding.
Yeah, so if you do 2 nostril piercings, let them both heal, and then do your chain, you'd probably be okay.
Yeah, that would be the idea, is, like, I wouldn't put a chain on it until it was healed because I don't want the chain to pull on anything healing.
Again, tracks.
Yeah. Look, sometimes my piercings heal rough, but it's not because I don't know what I'm doing, it's because my body tries to fight me when I get them.
Mood.
Considering how much of a chatterbox Loki can be, I can understand unsewing his mouth wouldn't be top priority. I would argue that doesn't matter. Unsew this poor man's mouth. Loki grabs scissors. Odin's like, let me help you. Loki's like, no, fuck you. Cuts them all in one fell swoop and just yanks them out of his mouth.
Which, ow, pain.
I feel like that's worse than the needle part, almost. Not in the, like, getting stabbed. So that's the other thing I was gonna say. I think sewing his mouth shut hurts, not because of the needle, but because of the thread that is being yanked through it.
Can confirm that is not the painful part.
Well, no, yes, but you were talking about, like, the needle itself not being that bad. I think it's aggravated by, like, the rough string going through his face.
If it makes you feel any better, I have pierced my needle, or pierced a part of my body with a needle that had thread on it and then pulled the thread through my mouth, and it doesn't hurt that bad.
Yeah. I think... I'd have to look back. I imagined it as, like, thicker, like, string almost, instead of, like, thin thread.
It was not thin thread.
But I'm saying, like, I think that's why it was so, like, visceral in my brain.
That's fair.
Because I was.
This is me just going. I have pierced parts of my body with random sewing needles with like full on. I said,
a lot of it was like the panic for fucking, and like the fact that it like feels bad in general to have your face pierced repeatedly.
100%.
But just pulling all of that out at once like makes my face hurt.
Again, fair.
Which is just like wild. I do think, I will say, like, as far as character like choices, I think him and Odin still kind of being into each other does make their dynamic like way more interesting. It is a little fucking whack when they call themselves like blood brothers by oath and they also kind of want to have sex, but whatever.
Yeah, that's jarring.
Ooh, I do like clickety keyboards, Leaf.
I also have a clickety keyboard.
Mine is only pseudo clickety, but I don't like them to be like super loud because then I find it kind of overstimulating.
My brother built mine.
Nice. Oh no, you sent me a picture of this one. I know what you're talking about.
It's pink.
Yep.
Oh, there's a snowplow going past my house.
But like, there's kind of this moment where Odin is kind of trying to be like, I'm the only one that's still on your side, and Loki's like, no.
You were never on my side, bitch.
Yeah. Well, and like, they talk about what actually broke them up, and it's really fucked.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what, I know you said you didn't quite get to the end of your reread, but this part's, I don't know how far you got, but like, this part is, oh my god.
I remember this part.
Odin is effectively trying to gather warriors for his army in Valhalla. And there's this town where like their crops are failing or something to that effect.
That sounds familiar.
And Odin has Loki, doesn't even do it himself, which I think is what's so fucking infuriating. Via Loki, he basically convinces this guy that the way to end the like blight on his fields is to blood sacrifice his fucking kids.
Yeah.
Like, he kills the older two, and then he makes Loki go back to convince him to kill the youngest one too.
Yeah.
And like, Loki says something to the effect of like, I can still hear that child's screams.
There's a lot of dark in this book.
They do it in a way that is like, at least not like super upsetting for me personally. In the way of like, that's fucked up and like that does hit, but it doesn't, like, I don't have to stop reading because I'm so upset, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. They do it really well, but it's dark.
It's dark without being like unnecessarily traumatizing.
Exactly.
Which I think is delightful. A fun bar on the top of my keyboard. Ooh, nice. Sacrifice. Oh my god. There's a chant in the chat. Lord almighty.
Sacrifice. Sacrifice. Sacrifice.
But like, we get this story, and I kind of have this moment of like, Odin, why are you shocked that Loki left? Are we serious right now? Like,
can you blame him?
Right, like, are we serious right now? But we do get more of, like, Odin kind of admitting about Ragnarok and knowing Loki was the destroyer. And how part of his quest for knowledge was to figure out a way to stop Ragnarok without destroying Loki.
Because he loves him or some shit.
I think Odin in his own way does care about him. I just think it's extremely toxic.
Again, agreed.
He's like, you know, he went to like Yggdrasil, and Loki's like, most people don't come back from there. He goes, oh no, I hung dead in a tree for like 9 days and then got what I wanted and left. And Loki's like, oh, interesting.
Not the point, but Kay.
It's one of those things where, like, I think he is touched by Odin's attempts to find a loophole, but is not touched enough to let go of everything else Odin has done. nor should he be.
He absolutely should not be.
Oh my god, this whole sequence is just wild because it's Odin trying to explain why he does what he does, and Loki being like, "That's cool, but you're still a dick."
Yeah. Which again, like, mood.
Yeah. There's a moment where you almost think they're gonna fuck, and then Loki pulls out of it, and I'm so proud of him for that.
I was so proud of him, but also like, but I want the sexies.
I mean, sure, but that would have been quite bad for him character-wise.
It would have been, but like also the sexies.
Yeah. But he kind of stops, and Odin, this is when Odin is kind of like, don't you see, I'm like basically the only one still on your side. And Loki's like, okay, cool, then like, let me leave, like, and of course Odin's like, no, you have to stay here, because he's a possessive fuck.
Yeah, he is a possessive fuck.
God damn. Something
he's like a stage 5 clinger.
Oh yeah. Well, Odin very much strikes me as a character where, like, he is so afraid of losing people particularly that he causes himself to lose them. Like, that is what's happening here.
Yep.
He's so afraid to lose Loki that he doesn't understand that what he is doing is killing him, metaphorically speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So Odin basically gets mad and leaves because, sure. Loki goes back to Earth again because that's a good idea.
Yeah, that's smart.
To be clear, Loki has this moment where he literally is like, I know that this is stupid and I don't care. Like, I'm gonna go get Sigyn and we're gonna leave and I'm gonna not start Ragnarok and I'm just gonna go live with Sigyn elsewhere.
Which, I don't blame him.
Well, I don't think it's a great plan, but, like, I think it's a reasonable thing to attempt in a weird way at the same time. In reference to Odin leaf? Because not not in. So
we don't talk about Bruno, no.
So I think yes, in that the abuela in that movie does very much like cause damage to her own relationships because she's trying to keep everything together. But like that is the only parallel that I would draw, I think. Because contextually it's such like a different way of doing it. Because, like, she does it through, like, weird
manipulation and
intergenerational trauma manipulation stuff. Odin, like, gaslights people and, like, uses his influence as the Allfather to, like, assert control over things.
So it is similar, but in a different way. So when you look at it from a perspective of a Hispanic family, they, as a general rule, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, tend to be matriarchal and very generational. Whereas the Norse pantheon and stereotypical Western society tends to be very patriarchal.
Yeah.
And same level of generational.
I believe you're more or less correct.
But while we're looking at Odin and we look at the situation of what he's saying and what he's doing and calling it gaslighting, we would just look at the same relationship like what Ak is saying about Mirabal. And if we took everybody in that movie and made them white, it would be gaslighting. But when we're looking at them from our lens, it's not gaslighting. It's just the way that they do generational trauma.
I think the big difference in a lot of ways is intentions.
Fair.
But says purely speaking about Encanto, because obviously I am extremely white. Abuela does something that like is akin to manipulation, but is kind of too straightforward to be actually manipulative. She's very straightforward about how she wants everyone in the family to be. And part of the reason she's able to kind of quote-unquote get away with it is the respect of being, like, the matriarch of the family. Not that, like, Odin uses his power as, like, a male leader, certainly. But the influence is so different. Like, what he does is so much more intentional, and where he does think he's doing things for good reasons, he's so much more aware of the damage he's causing. Like, he literally convinced someone to kill their own children so that he could have an army for when Ragnarok came.
But we're talking about gods versus people here. So if you translate that down,
not overly comparable either.
No, but if we translate it down, I would say that Ak is not Ak. Leaf is not wrong with his translation.
I think it's both correct and different at the same time, if that makes sense.
I'll agree with that.
Like, the No, it's fine, like, that... Leaf, you say that like that's not the fucking point of the stream.
Book club.
Yeah. I don't think you're incorrect, but I think contextually it makes it feel very different. Like, I am fully fuck Odin for basically this entire book. I have so much more empathy for the abuela in Encanto.
I don't. For either of them, but a huge portion of that is probably my own personal experience with families.
I should clarify, I don't think it excuses the shit that she does.
No, but I still don't have empathy for her.
But hearing her backstory versus hearing Odin's backstory, I understand her more versus Odin. I'm like, okay, fucking and?
That's one of those we're gonna have to agree to disagree on.
Yeah, I mean, I also don't blame people who, like, don't give her any empathy, because it's not necessarily deserved.
She has a very similar attitude about life to the way my mother does, and my mother and I live thousands of kilometers apart for a reason.
Right. No, I get that. No, this is not me saying that, like, I think Abuela is, like, a great person.
I didn't take it that way.
I don't think she's right. I appreciate some of her backstory making her the way that she is, I guess is what I'm getting at.
And that is absolutely fair. But this is the agree to disagree part.
Right. Which is also fine. Like, you're not gonna catch me defending her that much. I think she definitely, like, does some fucked up shit and upsets
100%.
But point being, Odin is a fuck in this book.
Yes.
Because he just, like, he thinks that he kind of knows what's best. And, like, because he is the Allfather and he is the protector, so he's, like, trying to fulfill his role, but he's kind of also causing more problems.
Which, honestly, is on brand.
From what I know, yeah.
He tends to fuck everything up when he gets involved.
Yep. But Loki goes back to Earth. He's going to find Sigyn. The plan is to go get Sigyn and fucking leave, basically. Go into hiding. Go somewhere where they can exist outside of all of this TM. Coincidentally, it's been about 8 or 9 months.
Oh dear. Guess what time it is?
Chat, do you want to guess what he comes back to? I kind of called this too, but the reveal is so good.
You're not wrong.
Feeling, but the way it's done is so good.
The best part of this for me is it's a female author, and it's actually 10 months for pregnancy, not 9.
Yeah. 9 is the general, like, one that people use, though.
Yeah.
Also, considering a thing that happens momentarily, it being 9 months actually, like, maps out pretty solidly.
Correct. But it made me laugh at the time.
Sure, it makes more sense in a few pages.
It's true.
Wait, so does your headset just not work now?
Literally just fell all the way.
Oh, so you just have, like, open shit now. That's bad.
Super
yeah,
glue.
we might be making a Walmart run. On both of our headsets, because we have the same one, we've got, like, a box that lets us control, like, the mic and the headset volume, and the front of his just fucking came off.
Super glue it. It's fine.
You might be able to super glue? I don't know. That's up to him. But yeah, no. He manages to get inside the house after much pleading, frankly.
Which, again, do not blame.
No, he deserves it. Sigyn is getting ready to fucking lay into him. And then he realizes...
Also lay an egg.
And then he realizes that she is extremely pregnant. And his whole... Every single, like, excuse just leaves. He's like... Oh, you're Is that my... Oh. Fuck. Not because he's, like, necessarily upset about, like, her mothering his children, but because of the prophecy that Golda gave him about his children, like, bringing ruin. So he's like, man, if Odin finds out I have more kids, I'm in so much fucking trouble, and so are they. Shit.
Oops.
So he does get to talk to her, thankfully. He reveals that he is Loki and not Lucas. She doesn't super believe him, which is reasonable. So he lights his whole body on fire to prove it.
Which, like,
sure,
not reasonable, but okay.
But it works. Like, she believes him after that, so fair enough. So at this point, she is, like, more open to what's going on, because she's like, oh, you're a god, I'm carrying your children, and you're telling me that Odin is coming after. Oh, that's bad. Okay, noted.
Bears.
But he's like, we gotta go. And then her water breaks, which is great.
Excellent timing.
I will say my thing, and, like, I am guilty of this as well. Pregnancy stories that I have heard from people who have actually had children versus, like, pregnancy in books is different. So drastically different. Because, like, not that the water doesn't break and that you're not like, oh shit, there are children coming. But, like, the timeline is not necessarily as, like, dramatically short all of the time.
So I was like that up until my best friend gave birth.
Okay.
And her first ever baby. And she was in labor for, like, a solid hour and a half. And she was done.
Which is not long.
No. But it was her first baby. And she's tiny. She's, like, 5 foot. She should not have given birth that fast.
Right. Well, and especially with smaller stature women, I believe that can prolong labor, can't it? Because
it absolutely can. And her husband is, like, 6 foot. And he was born as like a 10-pound baby.
Oh, of
and
course.
my nephew was born, and he was like a solid 8.5 pounds.
Lord bless her.
And my first words to her after I got the baby's here message was, "Did you tear?"
Yeah,
and she's
literally.
like, "No." And I'm like, "Oh, honey,
it's
I don't know how you didn't."
Genuinely, for the size of the child and the speed of her labor, I have no idea how she didn't.
So the best answer we've gotten is she's made to have children.
Yeah, fair.
Which, like,
cool.
Not fair, but like, okay.
It doesn't like mean much.
No, but like, oh my god.
Yeah, no.
I legitimately crossed my legs and was just sitting here like, ow, my vagina.
Yeah, literally.
I'm like, I don't know how you did not have stitches.
Yeah, seriously.
In places that should not have stitches.
Uh-huh. No, and like, this is not to say that I think like this particular portrayal of pregnancy is like super unrealistic. It's just always something I think about when I get to like a labor or birth scene in a book.
Yeah, it's a lot of like, oh, my water broke, the baby's coming, 10 minutes later, the baby's here.
Right.
And every time I read that, I'm just sitting here like, I feel bad for your vagina, honey.
It generally doesn't work like that.
It generally does not work like that, and it hurts my brain.
Also, generally speaking, if you, like, because there are, like, stories of, like, women who, like, didn't know they were pregnant, and then, like, a head was coming out of them, like, that's a thing that exists. But, like, that's an emergency situation, like, big time.
Oh, 100%.
That's
doubly
like
so if you haven't had prenatal care.
Yeah, that's, like, a different level of shit. So, like, if your kid is coming that fast, that's, like, not a good omen, generally speaking. If your child is, like, arriving and you just found out you were in labor, like, 10 minutes ago.
Well, and the flip to that, too, is, like, from a logistics standpoint, if you're... So, and I'm 100% going to go into too much information for the men in the chat, but whatever. So it takes time for your body to dilate appropriately to be able to push a baby out of it.
It's part of the reason labor can get so long.
Exactly. So your cervix has to dilate, and there's hormones involved in it, and there's chemistry involved in it. Yep. And if it doesn't have a chance to do that,
I mean, it can fuck you or the kid up. It's quite bad.
It is very, very bad, but it's also incredibly painful.
Yep.
And then if your body decides it's going to do that, but in hyperspeed, you're still going to be in a lot of pain, but now you also are probably going to tear between your vagina and your anus, which is incredibly painful.
Which then just hurts more.
And you need stitches.
Lord almighty,
and on top of all of that, you need stitches in a place where you have to wipe when you go to the bathroom. And women have to wipe regardless of what we do, which means... peeing is painful, much less taking a shit.
I mean, that hurts anyway just because you have stitches, but...
Yeah.
I will say one of my favorite things from the sequence of, like, Loki trying to get Sigyn to listen is just, quote, "My rule was an angry woman always won," as she, like, throws literal books at him.
Again, I don't blame her.
Sentinel.
Your vagina.
Sentinel. Oh, honey.
We're talking about giving birth.
To give you brief context, we're in the part of the story where a woman gives birth. So we got into that a little bit. So the tearing was not in the book, but we were talking about, like, depictions of pregnancy and labor in stories. I'm so sorry that that's what you came into. That's not what we were talking about.
Vulva.
No.
There's an O, not a U.
That's not what we were talking about. Oh my god. I'm gonna die.
Vulva.
I'm gonna die.
Not vulva.
Anyway.
It's not a weird Norse book. You're weird.
No, Sentinel.
Kinda like Volvo, except there's an A on the end.
No, God, no, it's... Oh my god.
Just no.
It's...
Just no.
It's VOL. VA. It's another word for a seer or like a prophet individual.
Thank you.
I'm getting I love you from across the room because of the shit posting.
Just throw something at him for me.
Right. But, long story short, baby's en route.
Baby is here. There's no en route for this.
Yeah. So, Sigyn does a remarkable job of being the only calm person in the room despite being the one giving birth.
Again, stereotypical pregnant woman.
I love her so much. That's something
Men
else
panic,
entirely.
women are
Sentinel.
just like, "Okay, the baby's coming."
So, Sentinel, the lady bits, as you put it, are spelled the way that you spelled it. The way that I spelled it in chat means something else.
So the lady bits are spelled VU. The seer is spelled VO.
Uh-huh.
With many involved characters.
Yeah, so also worth noting the way that I spelled it, in a perfect world, it would have 2 dots over the O, which is why it's pronounced like that.
As opposed to vol.
Yeah.
It's pronounced vol because of the O.
Which is very close, I will give you. So I do understand the confusion.
I 100% understand it.
Yeah. So, yeah, Sigyn proves to be the most rational one in the room with her...
Shocking no one.
Yeah, even despite her being the one giving birth. So, she basically, like, she's on a stool. She's on a birthing stool, which I didn't know was a thing. Is interesting.
It was a historical thing, in fact.
Yeah, I figured. So she's got Loki behind her, like, holding her up and is, like, clutching at his arms. And then the handmaiden girl that neither of us can remember the name of is on the other end, effectively supervising.
She's catching. She's got to catch her spit.
She's catching. So, baby number 1 comes out. Everything's pretty much fine. And then we've discovered that there is a second one. And the second one takes way longer. Like another full hour, I think.
Which is not actually way longer when it comes to birthing, but okay.
Sure, but the implication is that this, like, second round is much more, like, arduous and difficult. Because she has already given birth to one child, was not planning on giving birth to another one, and is, like, worn the fuck out already and cannot stop, basically.
Yeah.
But this is why I was saying her going into labor at 9 months is, like, less crazy, because if you have twins, typically you do go into labor early.
Yeah.
Because there's less space. Like, your body
we can
only
move our organs so much.
Right. I think there is, like, a different reason for going into early labor with twins. I think it might have to actually do with the amount of available resources to the kids rather than space, but don't quote me on that.
I'm going with space.
Point being, second kid makes his way into the world. Loki now has twin sons. And Sigyn is, like, bleeding all over the floor.
Fair.
And I think my note is, I said, there's a part of Loki that is excited, which is precious. This is definitely going to get ruined immediately, though. Oh, twins! Yup, ruined immediately, possibly by Sigyn dying. Yikes. You can tell I was doing quick notes at this point.
Yeah.
So, handmaiden assistant girl, like, runs for a doctor. And Loki realizes, like, I have to change her into an immortal or she's dead. So he literally, like, reaches into himself and pulls out a piece of his chaos, which is described as, like, pretty excruciating. Like, it doesn't feel good. Right, yeah. Like, he gets it and it, like, he's physically unhurt, but, like, the process is painful. So he puts his little bit of chaos into her, and he gets pretty fucking lucky, and it works. So she's fine and now immortal, but doesn't know that yet. Because, you know, she just woke up, basically. She was fully unconscious and, like, gray. So she's like, oh, the babies are crying. What are you doing letting the babies cry? And then she's like, why is there blood all over the floor? What is going on right now? Like, a lot happens very quickly. Because Thor shows up immediately after this. Again, shows up after the big dramatic thing has happened, which is kind of convenient.
Also on brand.
Yeah, that too. So then the pair grab their children and just fucking take off, like, into the woods. Loki uses illusion magic to give Thor, like, illusions to chase instead of them, basically, which buys them a little bit of time. So there's this point where they're like, okay, we have to stop. Our kids are, like, maybe a couple of hours old tops. Like, they cannot be outside like this yet. Like, we have to, like, take shelter. We can't, like, do any significant travel yet. Like, these children are too, like, vulnerable, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they go into this, like, old, like, underground cave system that Sigyn knows about. They get, like, settled in a cavern. They have actually this really sweet moment where they name the children. And do you remember what they named the children? It's
not off the top of my head, no.
Narfi and Nari or something like that? No, Nari is one of them. I just don't remember the other one.
Nardi?
Maybe.
I don't remember.
But they name the twins, and they have this really nice little moment where, like, they're on the run, but Loki's just kind of delighted that they're all, like, together, and that Sigyn is fine, and that he has his sons. Which is very cute. And then immediately gets ruined again.
Yeah, a lot of this book is Loki is happy. Let's see how we can ruin it.
Uh-huh. Because not only does Thor show up, it is Thor, Tyr, Odin, Frigg, and Balder, all in this cave, that have come to get Loki.
Because how dare he be happy?
Oh my god, I know. Fucking A. And, like, oh my god, this whole sequence is so intense. Loki tries really, really hard to, like, keep them away from Sigyn. They have hidden the children beneath her cloak. He is talking to them. He is trying to, like, wheel and deal something. He's like, I'm done with y'all. I would like to go on my way. Like, why can't y'all just let me go do... Like, you know, he's like, trying to both get him and Sigyn out of this while also having so much fuck you energy at the same time.
It's very much so a fuck you, I'm done, get the fuck out of here moment.
Right, while also trying to keep Sigyn, like, out of the line of fire as much as possible.
He's protecting her.
Tragically, his children are infants and have no concept of the fact that they need to remain quiet in this moment.
Again, shocking no one.
Right. So, like, that happens. Of course, I think it's Odin maybe that picks up on it. But they're like, what the fuck is that? And Loki's like, nothing! It's nothing! It's a bat in the cave! It's nothing! And of course, everyone's like, you're an idiot. Sigyn's cloak falls off to reveal both of the boys. And of course, everyone who, like, knows this prophecy about Loki's children, like, bringing ruin and bringing Ragnarok are, like, horrified, right?
Yeah.
They're like, that's bad. So then they not only are after Loki and Sigyn, but they're very, very fixated on his literally newborn children. And of course, Loki's like, no. Absolutely the fuck not. So there is a very cool combat scene where, like, he's fighting Balder and Thor and Tyr at the same time, and then, like, Frigg steps in and, like, tries to do some magic stuff, and he, like, barely avoids it, and then Odin, like, also does magic shit, and it's a whole thing. Odin does, like, a water spell cast something, and it actually, like, smothers Loki's fire, which is, like, quite bad. because he needs that to, like, fight other gods, generally. So he holds them off. Sigyn takes off down a hallway. He tries to follow. They hit a dead end. Which, like, how bad has that gotta feel? Oh my god.
That's fucking terrifying.
Sucks. So he more or less surrenders. They go back to the cavern. And he's like, hey, do whatever you have to do to me, but let them go. Like, I am the destroyer. I am the one who brings Ragnarok. If you guys have me, then Ragnarok won't happen. And he actually breaks his blood brother oath with Odin in order to, like, follow through on this deal. Which is, like, also a big deal.
Yeah.
Oaths are not lightly broken. And Odin, to kind of my surprise, like, agrees to do this. He's like, okay, Sigyn can go. Take your boys. Loki, you have to come with us. Loki's like, okay. The one who causes problems is Frigg.
Shocking no one.
Because Frigg is convinced that the children are the ones that will, like, start something. So she... Well, first of all, Sigyn does this cool, like, magic-y wave thing that, like, knocks her off earlier, which is neat. But she's not able to do anything in time for Frigg to literally kill her infant children in front of her.
Which is terrible.
Loki's more or less bound at this point, I believe. So Sigyn is the one that, like, fully attacks Frigg because she just killed her children. So Frigg stabs her, and then she also falls. And Loki just has to sit there because he can't fucking move.
So he's literally watching every single thing that he's cared about die in front of him.
Yeah.
And he can do nothing.
Yep. Like, this just breaks my heart because I feel like Loki tried so hard to, like, do the right thing, and Odin was even going to let him. And then Frigg could not, like, get past herself long enough to let it happen. Like, you know it's bad when she does that and every other god in the room basically pieces. Like, they don't actually leave, but they're like, nope. Don't think I want to do this now.
Not touching this with a 10-foot pole with a pike on the end.
Yeah. She then proceeds to use blood magic using the intestines of Loki's children to bind him.
Which is not, you know, terrible or creepy at all.
Oh, I figured out what it was, I think, about 2 sentences before Loki did. And just died a little bit on the inside.
Yup.
So Loki is officially bound. The way that Odin binds him, there is a snake that continually, like, torments him with venom and such. So he is bound with blood magic and being tortured in a cavern, effectively. And that's where he hangs out for, like, 500 years. We do find out, Loki does not know, but we do find out that Odin took, Sigyn to Idun and has been feeding her golden apple, so she is alive, even though she doesn't super want to be. But Loki doesn't know that, obviously, because he spends 500 years in a cavern on Midgard, trapped. But that's why he's so, like, angry when he gets out and the man in the church discovers him, because, oh my god. Thor actually says something, like, extremely intelligent in that, like, they have brought Ragnarok upon themselves by trying to prevent Ragnarok.
Yep.
Like, if they had let Loki and Sigyn and their kids just, like, go, it wouldn't have happened.
Also, yup.
So basically, if Frigg hadn't come, it would have been fine. Not fine for Loki, but fine in the, like, avoiding Ragnarok sense.
Yeah.
I do want to make the note that Loki broke free because he was discovered by YouTubers trying to film content, and I just find that endlessly funny.
I don't disagree with that. It is hilarious.
So funny. The guy in the church is like, so how did you get out? Is like some kids in a cave found me. They were talking about the site that I didn't quite understand and something about content. and the guy is like, did you get found by YouTubers? I think so. They were kind of screaming a lot, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's just such a good exchange.
It is.
Also,
the whole book in general is really good.
Oh yeah. Also, kudos to Churchman for like kind of trying to stop Loki / convince him to not start Ragnarok, but also good fucking luck.
Again, can you blame him?
No, but he has no shot.
No, but can you blame him?
Yeah. Something that I skated by a little bit, but would like to kind of circle back to, is Odin talks a lot about compatibility when he's trying to convince Loki to stay away from Sigyn. He's like, your chaos and my ambition work well together. We're able to accomplish things. But her loyalty and fidelity is your opposite. You're going to hurt each other. And I don't think his, like, perception is correct in that, like, similarities are good and complete opposites can cause issues. Sigyn really makes him, like, be honest and balances out some of his chaos. Meanwhile, like, Odin kind of encourages it, and it, like, leads to things that Loki regrets. Like,
yeah.
If anything, the two of them tend to, like, almost indulge, like, darker natures of themselves. Like, or, like, allows them to accomplish things that they, like, maybe shouldn't. Versus, like, not that I think you can't be, like, too opposite. Like, I think that does also exist, but I think there's something to be said for that difference, too, and I think his perception of compatibility is a little strange in that way.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. Like, can you be too different? Sure. But also, you're toxic as shit, so this analogy doesn't work.
It absolutely does not.
Yeah. I will say, like, I'm really excited to, like, I'm gonna probably pick up the sequel next week. If not over the weekend, and I'm, like, pretty excited about it. Like, Loki's revenge is really deserved, but also Ragnarok is bad. And also, I think things are gonna come to a screeching halt when he finds out that, like, Sigyn is not dead. He's, like I said earlier, he's such a good example of, like, he's such a good, like, truly chaotic good character, and that, like, you're rooting for him even when he kind of does terrible shit sometimes.
Yeah, the whole time I read this book, all I wanted to do was see Loki win. Yeah. And he never wins.
Uh-huh. Which I think is probably the
like,
point.
It is, and it holds true to the history, but it hurts.
Yeah. Speaking of Loki, I'm, like, just so totally, like, into this, like, version of his character. He's so, like, sarcastic and fun and, like, weirdly honest, but also devious at the same time. Like, he gets such a good introduction to the book, and I feel like everything he does is so on brand for his personality. It's so funny. It's still endlessly funny to me that he's, like, considered a liar, because, like, he lies, but everything he does is so true to who he is, too.
Yeah. So, he's closer in this book than he is in a lot of content to the original myths.
Right.
There's still, obviously, artistic liberty,
I think there has to be.
Well, of course. But they do a really good job with it.
Yeah. Is he portrayed as, like, sympathetic in...
No.
Okay.
Well, yes and no. So
Okay.
when the original content was written, it was written in a time period where men were warriors and women were not. Well, they were, but they weren't.
Right.
So you would have women go into battle alongside men. You'd have shield maidens, you'd have all sorts of different stuff, but you wouldn't necessarily have same sets of values that we do now. So you're looking at a situation where the desired traits were the ability to fight combat honestly and pick up your sword and your shield or your mace and your shield or whatever else, and off you go and you fight people, and that's how you get things.
Right, but then Loki using illusions and magic, I imagine, goes against that, right?
It does. So Loki was not the bad guy, but he was not the guy you wanted to be. If that makes any sense.
Maybe not your star player, but not necessarily your antagonist either.
He wasn't the antagonist, but he wasn't your desired person. So when you're looking at this
he was not
as
a goal
religion,
to shoot for at the time.
Yeah, so when you're looking at it as a religion, right? You look at it as like let's compare it to Christianity.
Sure.
Jesus has the things that you want. He embodies the values that you're supposed to have to be a good Christian.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But in Norse religions or Norse religion in general, you have multiple deities, and Loki was the one that was the thing you did not want to be.
He was the example of stuff to avoid, effectively.
Exactly. And there were adherents to him. There were people who believed him as their patron or felt that he was their patron.
Well, I have to imagine, like, societal outcasts probably latched onto him, right?
Societal outcasts, women, a lot of different kinds of people would latch onto him.
Sure.
But it wasn't necessarily the same idea as the way that people latched onto Tyr or Thor.
Right. It's not as your priorities and your primary ideal traits are very different.
Yeah, so like while we look at him from a modern standpoint and go, "Oh, he's hilarious and he's funny and he's irreverent and it's awesome."
Yeah.
Oh, at the time period the stories were written, it was not okay to be different from Thor and Tyr and Odin.
So let me ask this in more modern Norse paganism-esque stuff. Is he still considered kind of this othered person?
At all. There are a lot of people that I have met that I've interacted with that share the same faith as me that have a lot of respect for him and have venerated him.
Okay.
It just depends on the person.
Sure.
A lot of Norse paganism in modern day is very individualistic.
Sure. Which has, I imagine, pros and cons.
Absolutely. But it's absolutely different than your stereotypical Christianity.
Right, where like more modern Norse paganism, because it becomes so individual and you can kind of form your own relationships and opinions to the pantheon, versus like my personal experience growing up Southern Baptist and being taught the way that things are.
Yeah, Norse paganism is very individualistic.
Mm-hmm.
There are people that will tell you that this is the right way to do things, and there are people that will tell you the same thing I'm telling you, which is you form your own relationships and you find your patron and you go on with your day.
And I imagine there's some of both.
There is
there a lot of times.
I guess the benefit of Norse paganism is that there is a lot of ability for interpretation.
Sure.
Which, from my little soapbox, is everything that we believe now, every religion that we believe in now, is translated from something else.
Yeah.
So we're dependent on the ability of the translators.
Yeah. And trusting them that they didn't change anything.
Exactly. So, regardless of...
But anyway.
But regardless of what you believe in, whatever you believe as your holy book, whatever you believe as the tenets of your faith, you're believing in because it's been translated by somebody else.
Right.
And that makes it hard.
Yeah.
Because you're trusting that person not to believe things that they don't believe in. You're trusting that person to translate correctly. You're trusting that person to translate faithfully to the original text.
Not to insert their own shit.
Exactly. And you're trusting that person or people has translated authentically.
Yep.
Because there are terms that don't translate. Vulva is one of them.
Right. Well,
there
that's
is
why
no translation.
That's why, the alternative word is CRS. It's like,
but it's not accurate.
But it's not a translation. It's
an approximation.
Right.
So, vulva is a really good one because it comes up in this book. But you're looking at this and it's translated as seeress, but they were more than just seers.
Sure.
They were seers and priestesses and
yep.
clerics and all of these other things, and they were highly respected members of the community.
And Golda specifically exists as more of a seeress for the purposes of this book.
Yes.
Which is, I think, why that term gets flipped in there for, context.
Which, fair.
Yeah, which I don't blame her for, because a lot of people are going to read that word and go, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a really good example of that word needs something different in Scandinavian.
I said, but there's no English version.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we look at that as an example and we take something like Norse paganism, or we take Christianity, or we take literally anything.
You're putting a lot of faith, no pun intended, in the people who are telling you what this shit says.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you're hoping and you're praying and you're believing in what somebody else has translated.
Yep. It's part of the reason I think it's cool to pull from so many different sources. You're still trusting people ultimately, but I like the different perspectives a lot of the time. You wanted to say something about Loki's gender and or sexual orientation?
Oh, yes. I did.
Go ahead.
So,
we're talking about him, so go for it.
Let me bring my soapbox in and place it down and stand on it. So one of the things that drew me to Norse paganism originally is that in the original Norse society, we were one of the first societies, and I can say we because I'm actually going back bloodline wise.
Oh,
Norse.
Cool. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's cool.
I'm
part of the Vikings that invaded Ireland, but I'm still Norse.
Which is still interesting.
It is. So we were one of the first societies that had the concept of divorce.
Okay.
And divorce in where the woman could divorce the man if she was just bored with him.
Gotcha.
Or done.
So was it a thing where either party could get divorced, or was it primarily women-oriented divorce?
No, it was either party could get divorced.
Okay.
It was equalitarian.
Gotcha.
Or egalitarian, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And either party could get divorced, and women because they did not have professions outside of the home at that point in time, except for shield maidens, would then end up with half of the man's plunder.
Right.
Until they were married.
Yep.
And
new husband could, take up that job.
Exactly. the Norse society had women's rights. They had the ability to go beyond what you were born into. If you were born into a farm community, you had the ability to go past just being a farmer or a vassal in a feudalistic society. And that was not a thing that we had in Western culture until like the Renaissance.
A bit
even
later.
then, iffy.
A bit later, we'll say.
A bit later. We had the ability in that culture to be more than the role you were born into.
Right.
On top of just women's rights, there was penalties for men that beat their wives. We had penalties for women that beat their husbands.
Yeah.
There was so much more than we even had 100 years ago. And we're talking over 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, they're still Vikings. Like, they did some
questionable shit.
But, like, they got it right in this instance, for sure.
Yes. No, they did some really sketchy and questionable shit.
You did just say invading Ireland about 2 seconds ago.
I did.
But anyway, beside the point.
And, the raping and pillaging thing that comes along with being a Viking.
Right.
But there are instances, and women's rights is one of them, where they got it right.
Yep.
And it was really cool to learn about all of that.
Yeah.
The part about Loki specifically is Loki in the histories, in the mythology, is one of the only characters in the Norse pantheon, if not the only character in the Norse pantheon, that is gender fluid and trans. And gender fluid here is he literally flips back and forth between being male and female.
Yeah,
and
he's a shapeshifter.
He is a shapeshifter. And when they decided they wanted to build walls around Asgard because something invasion,
something Jotun invasion, I think?
Jotun invasion. Something Thrym. They decided that they were gonna get a builder, and a guy comes up and he has a horse. And him and his horse are going to build the walls around Asgard. And if they don't do it in a certain time, then the gods get a benefit from it.
Well, part of his payment is he wants to take Freya.
Yes.
But he's only allowed to take Freya if he finishes the whole wall in a single season.
Yes, thank you. And so it looks like he's gonna finish. So of course the gods all panic, and Freya's like, "No, you can't take me. I don't want to go."
This deal is Loki's idea.
Of course, it's Loki's idea.
So all the gods are looking at Loki like, "You're fucking dumb. Fix it."
So Loki's like, "Okay, I got this shit, fam. Let's go." So he shapeshifts into a female horse.
Because the horse that's been helping him, does a lot of work. He could not do it without the horse.
Yes. So, and the horse that has been helping him is male and uncut. Let's call it that way.
Sure.
So he shapeshifts into a female horse and is like, "Hello, sailor," to the male horse. And the male horse is like, but, pussy. And the male horse just fucks off. And of course
a whole night. He chases Loki for a whole night.
An entire night. And Loki's like, "I got this shit." And so he finally catches up with him, and they do the beast with 8 legs. And then they continue on in this fashion.
Oh my god.
Then, I can't think of a better way to say this.
Okay, I didn't know where you were gonna go, and I love the decision.
So then all this happens, and of course this derails the wall building, so they don't actually have to give Freya to the builder, but it turns out Loki's pregnant.
Well, they also kill the builder for
they
not
also
finishing.
kill the builder for not finishing, but more entertaining here is Loki. So then Loki's suddenly pregnant with a horse. And so Loki is pregnant with a horse, and then he gives birth to Sleipnir, who becomes Odin's steed because Odin takes him from Loki.
And the horse has 6 legs?
8 legs.
Okay. Spider horse.
Spider horse. I wasn't kidding when I said spider horse. The horse has 8 legs.
That's why when you called it spider horse earlier, I fucking died. That shit was funny.
8 legs.
But all of that to say, Loki's kind of a fucking weird character at all times.
Loki is a very weird character at all times, but Loki is also a really good example of gender fluidity before gender fluidity had a term.
Yeah, but before it was considered something that was like other, I guess, in a way too. I guess it was other because it was Loki,
but it wasn't reviled.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Much like most of Loki's qualities.
Yeah. It was different, but it wasn't necessarily wrong.
Bad. Yeah. No. I will get the story of the thing of like, the story is not the most unpredictable thing I've ever read, right? Like, I fully understood about 75% of the way through the book that they were gonna cause Ragnarok trying to stop it.
Well, and to be fair, in the myths, Loki's children do cause Ragnarok. Yeah. But it's not his children from Sigyn, it's Fenrir and Jörmungand.
Yes. I don't know the details, but I do know that much. But I think it does a really good job of, like, the story is not necessarily unpredictable. I called 2 or 3 plot points while reading. But it still, like, draws you in and makes you want to go find out.
There's enough twists and turns to want to circle back and like, knowing the myths the way I do.
Yeah.
It made me actually want to finish the book.
The
first time I read it.
I think for you particularly, where you do know, like, myths and lore more in depth, I think reading it to see what they do with the existing source material is like a different layer of enjoyment.
It was, but that wasn't why I finished the book. I finished the book because I wanted to see where they would go with all of it.
Sure.
And I wanted to see how they would play on Sigyn. Because Sigyn is something that's not talked about a ton in the original content.
Which means there's a lot of room for creative freedom.
Exactly. And I like the way they portrayed her, because she's a very good contrast to Loki.
Well, it's kind of that whole thing, right, of, like, not that you shouldn't have common interests with a partner, like, you definitely should. But, like, you do kind of need someone that's gonna balance out some of your shit, right?
Oh, 100%. That's the reason I'm poly. I have too much shit. I need more people to balance it out.
That's so fucking fair. That's so fair.
No, it's the way that they play off of each other and the way that she wrote the two of them is beautiful.
I love
their relationship. With none of his shit.
She manages to put up with none of his shit and also love him and his shit at the same time.
It's beautiful.
Which is such, like, a good balance of, like, just because I'm not letting you get away with this does not mean I don't love you.
Exactly.
And I love that specifically.
I do. I think she did a really good job with the characters.
Yeah.
And I think she did a really good job with Sigyn. Not to derail things, but I'm gonna derail things.
Okay.
I very shortly need to go to bed.
Okay. I have like 2 more bullet points that I want to hit, and then we can wrap because we are over time. So the only, like, super minor criticisms, I hesitate to even call things like this criticisms because it's just, like, me being a writer. I, like, overthink shit sometimes. I personally find first person perspective confusing when you're changing perspectives. And it only happens from the guy in the church to Loki and back. But it was a little jarring when it happened.
I find it hard unless there's definitive breaks, like chapters.
I think that was the thing.
Or
and
like
I think
headings.
I think it was okay because they were chapter separated. Like, we hang out with Odin for like 2 seconds and find out Sigyn is still alive, and like that's a chapter on its own.
Which, like, fair. But I have no problem with it flipping in chapters if there's like headings that are like, I'm with Loki right now and it's in his perspective.
Right. So it's not the perspective flip that really bothers me. I read things with perspective flips like semi-regularly. I think it's first-person perspective flips that specifically get me because that's less common.
Yeah, I read stuff with first-person perspective flips fairly frequently because I read a lot of smut.
That's fucking fair, actually. I will rescind that slightly. That's fair.
But every time I do that, there's like headings where it's like somebody's perspective ends, and then there's a heading that says whose perspective I'm in, and then I go into their perspective. Right. And that helps me shift.
I think I just unintentionally read a lot of third-person things.
I don't really generally notice the perspective I'm reading in unless it's jarring.
It jumped out at me because the change from Churchman to Loki like confused me for about half a second.
Which, like, fair, it's a very dramatic shift.
Yeah, which I think is partially the point, so, like, I don't know. I don't think it, like, damaged my enjoyment of the book in any way. It's just because I also write, I'm always paying attention to stuff like that. Like, I can't turn that off.
No, that's fair.
It's just a part of my brain that is, like, permanently on at this point. So it's an interesting choice in that, like, I think it is something that can be confusing if done poorly. I don't think she does it badly.
You just got ooh-wooed.
I know. Hi, Sentinel. I do want to spend a minute on Frigg. That's, like, my last real thing.
Oh, Frigg.
I know, but we can't not talk about it.
The book Frigg or the real Frigg?
A little bit of both. I'm gonna hit some stuff on book Frigg, and then we can... I think she ends up being a huge force of nature that, like, really impacts the story, and I think it makes her, like, a great character as much as I want to fucking, like, punch her in the nose. Because it's a manifestation of, like, the bitterness and the genuine hatred that I think she feels for Loki. I feel a little on the fence about so much of their conflict relying so heavily on their relationship to her husband. Not because, like, she wouldn't be angry about that, but because you just run into the danger of, like, it falling into the trope of the angry, scorned woman, and I don't think we did that, but it's I don't know. I worry about that with stuff, because it's like, oh, she was scorned, she hates Loki, so she did something drastic, right? I don't know. It's something I, like, worry about sometimes with, like, angry women tropes, because they're very prevalent, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's fair. Frigg,
so I guess my follow-up question to that is, like, is that on brand with, like, quote-unquote OG Frigg, or is that, like, a creative license that Lyra Wolf made?
So I would call that a creative license. So she, very similarly to Freya, was a Volva. In the original, like, OG content. She didn't really hate Loki from my memory more than anybody else did.
Right, so, like, general dislike and distrust, but not the level that we get here.
Yeah, but she was Odin's wife.
Yes, of course.
And Baldur's mother.
Yes.
The problem is Frigg in the OG sources is a pretty sparse, I guess, mention.
So it's a little like Sigyn?
Yeah, Freya's mentioned a lot more. Mm-hmm. Frigg's mentioned more than Sigyn, but Frigg's not mentioned a ton.
Understood.
there's speculation that they were at one point the same figure that then got separated.
That's possible.
But like friggin' Freya.
Yeah.
But obviously we don't have the original source, so.
No, of course not. I guess my whole thing with it is like, I think if you go the route that we have gone with Frigg in this first book, I think you have to be careful that she doesn't just stay in this box of being like this angry kind of almost scorned jealous woman for like the rest of the series.
Yeah, which is hard to do with how they've written her.
Like, this is my concern, is not that I think that she's badly written in this book, but when you dig this hole with this kind of character, it is so fucking hard to not get stuck there.
Which is what I was worried about as well.
So I'm a little worried about that starting the sequel, not because I don't think Lyra Wolf is an excellent writer, because I do, but because, like, that is just difficult. Like, on principle, it is very easy to accidentally make a character two-dimensional like that.
And she did it in the first one.
Yeah, she's done very well with it in book 1, in my personal opinion, where, like, yeah, Frigg does some whack shit, but, like, there's pretty good build to it, I feel like.
Yeah, agreed.
For the most part, at least. So, like, the build to this point has been great. But I am worried that now that we have hit this peak with Frigg, that there is no, like, progression, that she's just gonna sit up here.
Yeah, I can't actually say anything without spoilers.
Yeah, I mean, you and I will have a different conversation when I've read more of the other books, but...
Yeah. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
The way that Lyra Wolf wrote that character...
Worried.
Yeah, it's jarring, for sure.
Yeah. I think it's well done to date, but I am concerned about the continuation of the character, I guess is all I mean.
Understandable.
Yeah. I did realize you sent me the link to the original story of Thor dressing as a bride and what have you. And it's Heimdall's idea and not Loki's, which I find really fucking funny.
It is indeed Heimdall's idea.
Which I just find endlessly funny because everyone's like, Loki, your plan better work. And I'm like, wait, it wasn't even Loki's plan. What do you mean?
Yeah, I had a hard time with that when I was reading this.
Yeah, I'm glad that I found that out after the fact.
Yeah, so I read a lot of this and I was like, wait, this wasn't Loki's idea. Guys, this was not Loki's idea.
Yeah.
And then I read more of the book and I'm like, wait, none of this was Loki's idea, guys.
Right. Like, that's creative licensing, obviously, but...
Absolutely.
I'm not shitting on that at all. It was just so funny to, like, look that up or to be sent that and be like, wait a goddamn minute.
Yeah, there's a lot of the stories that are like, wait, guys, stop for a second.
Yeah.
This was not Loki's idea. You're gonna blame him anyway, but it wasn't his idea.
Correct. I am gonna pop the link tree from Lyra Wolf's social media into chat for anyone who wants to check her out. There are 3 books in this series, and then she's written a couple of, like, side books in the same, like, series/universe.
I still 100% believe we should do the Saga of Better Earth for next month.
We shall see. I have a book potentially lined up that I already own, and also, the other thing I was gonna say is we may wait until January to do another one because of the holidays.
January is next month. It's fine.
No, I'm just, for the sake of my personal sanity, we may skip December because too much shit happens at the end of the year, frankly.
Agreed.
So I'll do, like, a more official announcement of that at some point, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. But no.
I still make my vote known.
No, for sure. I should still have the name of it, and it is on... It's definitely, like, a soon read. The only reason it won't be the next one is because I kind of had lined something up for the next one already, but we'll see. I haven't made any final decisions, so we'll get there.
I just think it would be fun to do one
and then have
book
that
into another god book.
I want a book club on 12/24 so we can stay up late together and wait for Santa Claus. I'm Sentinel, do you honest to God believe that people would show up on Christmas Eve when they're like actively doing holiday shit?
Would. It's the wrong day for me to care.
That's also
Mine's
true.
on the 21st.
I'm aware. But no, before it gets lost in the chat, I would say definitely check out that link tree. If you are interested in any of this universe, like all of her social media and her website are all right there. She's a Swiss-American author. She does fantasy and mythic fiction. She's a bachelor's and a master's in history and English, respectively. And she lives in Florida and has a very cute chihuahua on her website.
A very cute chihuahua.
He's cute. There is going to be a book 4, by the way. This is not a trilogy, so at some point we get more of this. I don't think she set a release date. You have my attention with the... Yeah, go check out her freaking website. There's a reason I put the link tree in chat. Go.
Now.
But yeah,
Be gone.
Be gone. Thought. No. But yeah, no. Like, I'm really fucking pumped.
Ooh woo.
Thank you. I'm really pumped to like pick up the sequel to this. And also to probably blow up your DMs again when I have read the rest of it.
Again, I will not complain. And yes, I am Bossy Leaf. Thank you.
No, I'm really enjoying, like, I know a little bit about like more traditional Norse Loki, but not a lot. So it's like interesting to like have that little bit of knowledge and also have like the absolute absurd amount of knowledge I have about like pop culture Marvel Loki, and then also have this iteration kind of all like interacting in my brain.
There's a fair level of like cognitive dissonance you have to go to when you look at historical depictions of deities.
For sure. But I think there's the parallels fascinate me too, in that like obviously traditional depictions of Loki are very different from like Tom Hiddleston Loki in the MCU, but there are like still parallels, and I think that's so cool and fun. I just love that a lot.
Agreed.
So I'm super excited. Like, this is probably one of my favorite books that we've done for book club, just because I went in vaguely curious and have come out the other side just like so delighted.
Leaf, I would like to contrast with the random stream quote and say you are in fact a toilet.
Oh, the Stream Elements loves to put the "I am not a toilet" quote from him in chat. I don't know why that's a Stream Elements favorite, but it's very funny. But no,
I don't even know the context, but it's hilarious.
It was something that got said during a raid night, because it's a 14 quote. But I have no idea why. It's like been too long at this point. It was during... I mean, I figured it was during P2S because we fought that boss for 18 bajillion fucking years. But like...
Oh man, P2S.
More like...
I don't want to think about P2S right now.
More like fucking PTSD. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But Jesus
You're
Christ,
not
that
wrong.
horse. Anyway. But no, so that's most of what I have. If you have anything else that you would like to add before we wrap, you are more than welcome to do so as our resident Norse pagan who knows more about this than I do.
I could go on a tangent for another hour, but it is 11:30 and I need to go to bed.
I am indeed half an hour past when I normally end, but it was... I also knew we were gonna run over because we were getting into, like, history and myth, so it's...
I tried to chime in with random shit during rather than saving it all to the end because I knew we were going to go over so I could go to bed.
Yeah. You and I also just don't shut up sometimes.
It's true.
Which I love about us, but in a timed format can be rough.
It's also true. Just wait. You're going to come up here for my wedding and we're going to sit here and I'm going to end up being late leaving my own damn wedding because we're going to sit here and talk about shit.
Your friends are gonna be so done with me.
No, they're not. We all do this. basically everybody's gonna sit there. We're gonna drink wine and we're gonna all gossip until 2 in the morning.
I'm very down. Shoot me a DM, Leaf. Because at the moment I'm trying to figure out who to raid, because I think maybe the people I normally... No, never mind, I know who we're raiding. Ha! Moonjade.
Well, you have to come to my wedding then, Leaf.
True shit. Hello, Yikes Factory. Welcome into chat.
Hello.
Life's
It's book
good
club
there.
night.
I'm doing okay. It's been maybe a not great week. Okay. I hope you are doing well. You did come in towards the end. Yeah, there you go. There's a whole fucking command that explains why I've had a bad week.
You lost a fight with a deer, and this is the first time hearing of it?
Did I not tell you? Oh my god. Okay, hold on.
You did not tell me.
Let me raid out, and I will give you the short version before you go to bed.
Okay.
I've told this story so many times at this point, I'm really losing track of who knows and who doesn't. So, we're gonna raid Moonjade because he's playing Pokemon Violet, and I'm probably gonna go play that after stream. Leaf, would you mind throwing all the links in chat, please? Oh my god.
He's typing at me. You have to wait a minute.
Oh my god, okay. Let me deafen and do my little outro. Okay, so if you need any links in chat, please make sure you grab them accordingly. There's Discord, YouTube, socials, all the normal stuff. Excuse me? I can do 2 things at once, thank you. I am gonna start out this raid to Moonjade. Bye bye bad week, exactly. See, we had a good Friday. We're gonna go raid. I'm gonna play Pokemon this weekend. We're getting a good start. I appreciate you coming in at Yikes Factory, even though it was at the end. Monday, we're gonna be streaming more Kingdom Hearts, so if that appeals to you, please feel free to come on by. We don't normally go until 11:30. It's normally till about 11, but we will be live Monday. So, I'm gonna start this raid out and hit ending soon, and probably go get a drink because I've been talking for like a million years. But I really appreciate everyone who comes by. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Make sure you grab a raid command. But book streams are some of my favorites, and I know they like don't do as well, like statistically speaking, but I have so much fun doing them that like I will probably keep doing them anyway. So like I really appreciate any like support and love that y'all get out of it or give me during it. It just makes it so much more fun. So I'm gonna hit ending soon, and I will see you guys on Monday.
Ooh, woo.